How is everybody doing tonight? Welcome on in. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well. I'm dying actually a little bit, but I'm doing well despite that.
Dying a little bit, man. What's going on? Why are you dying?
Oh, just the vaccine from yesterday. I got the second one, and they lulled me into a false sense of security because I was feeling good. I woke up with some chills, some symptoms, but then about midway through the day, they went away and I felt perfect. And then like 2 hours ago, they all came back. So I was freezing to death. I'm not anymore, so that's good.
Sounds like an.
But if I start, shaking violently mid-episode, you'll know why.
Did you find to see if you got a microchip implanted in you or anything? Put a magnet.
I've been feeling around,
yeah.
But all I feel is pain.
Oh no, I got mine done. It hurt like wicked bad for just one night, but my arm was so dead I couldn't sleep on it. I couldn't roll over on it. I couldn't lift it. It sucked pretty bad.
Yeah, I made that mistake too, where I kept trying to roll over onto my side in the middle of the night and like jolting awake.
Oh man, ooh, Charlie with a resub. How's it already been 6 months, Charlie? Welcome in. Let's say hi to a few people here who are chilling. Got Moby, Biscuit, Wes, Bacon Fixation. Yes, there's always bacon, baby. Let's see, Grace, hi, how you doing? Katie, tell the kids I said hi. Hope you're having a good night. Let's see, who else? Teddy, what's going on, dude? Shipwreck Dan, Nate. Man, gang's all here.
Welcome in.
Hi, Biscuit. I'm not ignoring you. I'm saying hi right now. So, yeah, tonight's gonna be. I feel like I said this. Like, this is the fourth episode of this that we've done. Right? We missed last week, which of course we made sure to spend our extra time really well and extra prepare for everything.
100%.
And we were able to do a double header again. So we got 2 stories ready to rock. And this one is definitely it's a little different than normal, especially the Reykjavik one is way different than anything else we've done so far. But there's some crazy stuff going on here. Crazy. I'm excited.
Very much so. Very much so. We sort of mashed these two together. Like obviously last time when we did Gareth Williams and John Luna, they had some themes that you could pretty easily draw. Comparing the two.
Right.
This, we definitely were grabbing at straws. We didn't choose these two because they have any correlation. We didn't think of anything ahead of time. They were just 2 cool stories that, were on our list to get done. And we decided, fuck it, we could probably do both of these in one night. That being said, I would say that, there's a good question involved in both of these cases. And that is, how do you go about investigating a crime when you actually don't know if a crime has occurred?
Right. Yeah, both of these, it's definitely not clear whether or not there even was a murder, disappearance, what have you,
That's right. And Wes just left chat, and, I think next week we'll have to figure out where he went.
Why is that?
No, he just said, Nick, remember what we practiced? Leaves.
What did you practice?
Well, that's a secret.
Oh.
He and I went through this whole comedy routine. It's really going to break through, I think.
Oh, okay. All right, Wes. We'll see you later, I guess.
We'll solve that mystery.
That'll be the next mystery. Sweet. Hey, Wolf, what's up, man? It's always sexual here. It's always wicked sexual with these 2 lovely faces up on your screen.
That's true.
I hope everybody's having a good weekend so far. It's been what Biscuit? What? I didn't realize you were asking me to guess what. Hey, Bakey, what's up, dude? Your leggings came in. Ooh, PeteGunn Show leggings. Nice.
Very nice.
Very nice. Speaking of which, I do have a new NickApplesauce command here that dumps all of his socials in the chat. So make sure you follow Nick in everything. And I'll throw my lowly little merch one in there too, right behind it. The P from Pete is right on my ass. That's where I'd love to be, Biscuit. Right on your ass. So which one we didn't actually discuss this week? Which one we wanted to start with? I
think Sodder probably would be a good lead-in. I think so.
I put it first in the title too.
Yeah, cool.
So I think that's a good place to start. Only apples instead of only fans. That's a good idea. That is a good idea.
It's coming in more ways than one.
When it comes, is it applesauce?
No doubt.
When you applejack, you get applesauce.
That's right.
Oh man. Okay. Off the rails in took us about 5 minutes because the first 5 minutes was intro. Do you want to start us off on this one? And
Sure.
We'll work our way through. There's a ton here that has happened and gone on. So.
Yes, indeed. So I think that where we're going to start with this, we said that we would give a little background on the people.
Yes.
In this case, it is a whole family, the Sodder family, of course. And we're sort of going way back to the year of 1895, when George Sodder is actually born Giorgio Sadu in Sardinia, Italy. Now, he would immigrate to the United States when he was about 13, alongside his brother, although his brother would turn after sort of being allowed in to the U.S. and go back to Italy, leaving George effectively on his own.
Which, do they ever discuss at any point why his brother dipped? Because his brother got through immigration and Ellis Island and all of that, was allowed into the country, and then just dipped on his brother.
Mm-hmm. My guess, I've heard of this happening before, where, you accompany your young sibling to make sure that they get there safely, and then return home because you're not actually looking to leave the country.
I mean, it's probably a different place than Italy, especially back then. Hemp, what's up, dude? How you doing?
Yep, so this was in the year 1908, and interestingly enough, George, as he would come to be known, never really spoke too much about why he left his homeland. It wasn't something he liked to talk about and wasn't something he would divulge.
Right.
Now, he first found work in Pennsylvania, bringing water and supplies to railroad workers. A few years later, he would move to West Virginia to a town called Smithers and take on some work as a driver. And he actually did pretty well for himself, enough that he started a business a few years after that. That is a trucking business. Very fitting. At first, they would haul dirt to construction sites in order to fill them in, fill in holes and whatnot. And later on, he would haul coal, which was being mined in the region.
Yeah, which is definitely you're gonna make bank, especially that time in American history. If you are involved in any way with new energy, coal, and especially trucking, the people that had trucking businesses way back then. My friend's family had a business that has been in the Northeast for as long as there's been trucks, and they're fucking loaded. They did pretty well. So
yeah, and they said as much. The trucking business took off. I actually have a quote from one local official who described the whole Sodder family as one of the most respected middle-class families around.
Right.
Now, one thing about George is I couldn't find too many descriptions of him, the man. Presumably he was a good guy. However, he was fairly outspoken on his political opinions, which, I don't know if you've ever been on Twitter, but that's not a good sign. That's not a good thing to be.
Right, unless you go with the popular opinion, and being in a mostly Italian neighborhood, his opinion. I'm surprised actually. You know more about history than I do, because what his major problem that a lot of people had with him was he was anti-Mussolini.
Yeah, no, that surprised me too. Where he moved to this town, how far away? Only 23 miles away from Smithers. He and his wife would move to and settle down in, and it was a town called Fayetteville. And it was majority, it had a very strong Italian presence, Italian-American presence. And yeah, like you said, interestingly enough, George was totally anti-Mussolini, anti-fascist regime, very outspoken. And surprisingly, yeah, that really rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I would think that Italian immigrants that left and came to America during that time would be anti-Mussolini. That part blew my mind.
Although, he did come to America before Mussolini took power. Mussolini wouldn't, take power, I don't think, for a few decades. So I guess the Italy that he left sort of collapsed to Mussolini, and he wasn't a fan of it. So I don't know.
Crazy. I don't know. I find it weird that anybody in America would find issue with being anti-Mussolini. When I was a kid, I didn't even know who Mussolini was, and I remember songs making fun of him. So hey Jess, what's up?
Yeah, and later on, everybody sort of bookmarked that, because interestingly enough, George Sodder's hatred of Mussolini, outspoken disliking of Mussolini, actually is a huge part of this case.
Right. Yeah.
There's not a ton of evidence going forward, and a big theory is all about Mussolini. So, last time we talked about Bill Clinton. This time we're talking about Benito Mussolini.
It's always the Clintons. I'm sure there's some tie-in between Clinton and Mussolini.
Yep. Now, so while still in Smithers, he did meet a storekeeper's daughter named Jenny Cipriana. She was also an Italian immigrant, and the two would marry, her becoming Jenny Sodder. And like I said, they would move 23 miles away to Fayetteville, where they would, I believe, build a 2-story home and sort of settle down in the community, with George focusing on his trucking business and them raising a family. And when I say raising a family, it's a huge freaking family.
Dude, they went in on the whole family thing, man.
They really did. They had their firstborn in 1923, I wrote down. I missed that guy's name.
The first
Joe,
kid, yeah, is Joe.
I think. Yep.
Yep.
So Joe had left home by the time this story actually takes place, which is in, I believe, 1945, correct? Yep. He had actually left to go fight in World War II, interestingly enough, against Mussolini, so I guess following in his father's footsteps in that regard. At the time, they were living with the remainder of their children: John, who was 23, George Jr., who was 16, Marion, who was 17, Maurice, who was 14, Martha, 12, Louis, 9, or Lewis, I guess, Jenny, 8, Betty, 5, and the youngest, Sylvia, was 2.
All right, so I know that families are huge at that point. Even my dad, who he's like in his late 50s now, he's one of 9 or 10 kids himself. But like, so families were freaking huge there. But the crazy thing that I found a little funny is that like his dad had 2 kids before he took a junior. So like he looked at his first kid, he's like, nah, you ain't my junior. He looked at his second kid, nope, you don't get it either. And then the third kid, it's like, that's the one. You get to be the George Jr.
That's true. It's better than George Foreman, who just named all of his kids George Foreman. You could go the other route, I guess.
That's a good. I always thought that was a good strat. Then you don't have to worry about like mixing your children up.
This is a complete tangent, but like you just said, there's this baseball player named Victor Mesa. He's the son, of course, of Victor Mesa, and he has a younger brother named Victor Jr. Mesa.
I didn't know that. I'm a third, so like that's why I took some particular interest in the fact that he skipped the first 2 kids before passing his name on. I don't know if that was common back then, but like in the 80s when I was born, the first kid gets the name if you're gonna pass it on, right? Mm-hmm. Or the kid that you get from the second marriage after you realize you screwed up the first family and you restart,
Yep. Biscuit, yes. George Foreman does have a daughter named, I believe, Georgette or Georgina, something like that.
Really?
Yeah.
This whole story, Biscuit, we're in about 1945 right now. So.
I'm serious. Look it up. I'm not joking.
I'm looking right now.
This is the first one. I know it sounds like a joke. It's not.
Let's see. He had a daughter, Frida. That might have been a nickname, though. Let's see. I can't find
This is the investigative journalism that people come for.
So he had a couple of daughters. He had a Natalie, a Frida, and I'm having a hard time finding the other one. Oh, yeah, Georgetta. Yep.
Georgetta. Yep. There we go.
Yeah, so they almost been from the first marriage. Must have been all the Georges and Georgettas. So.
At least they only did it the one time. There's not Georgetta 2, Georgetta 3, Georgetta 4, So that's good.
Yeah. So, all right, all right, so George Foreman had 12 kids, in case you're wondering. We're a little bit off topic here, but that's okay.
More than the Sodders. That's how we tie it back in. 2 more than the Sodder family.
Nice.
I think. So, so it's 1945. It's Christmas Eve. Everybody's happy. It's a good time of the year, Marion, who is the eldest daughter, has been working at a store, and she's saved up enough earnings to buy her 3 younger sisters toys, which she presents them with as a surprise on Christmas Eve. All of the children are having such a good time they can't even sleep at their bedtime and wait for Christmas Day to come. Instead, they ask their mother, hey, can we stay up a little later tonight? And the mother says yes, on one condition. Just make sure that before, you go to bed, Louis and Maurice, who are the 2 eldest boys awake at that time — the older boys had fallen asleep at that point in the night — the 2 eldest boys awake at that point in the night, make sure to put in the cows and feed the chickens. So, not only trucking, farming too. Very impressive.
Yeah, they had like a pretty modest farm, with a few animals, but yeah, they were definitely mostly in the trucking thing. But Biscuit with the host. By the way, thank you, Grace, and obviously Nick for the host also.
No problem.
And thank you, Bakey, for the host. Biscuit, I think so. I did see one of the things that you had posted, so maybe that's the reason why they waited to name a kid Junior, because like child mortality was really high. I honestly think he probably just looked at the kid and was like, "This ain't it. You ain't it, fam," and gave him a regular.
He doesn't have like a full head of hair.
Yeah,
you gotta wait for that.
Parents naming their kids after themselves, it's like a vanity thing. It's got to be a perfect match. Charlie, auto host is broken. Doesn't work anymore.
That's true. They killed auto host.
It does not work.
It does not work anymore. Not as intended, at least. Or it now does work as intended, which is barely.
Yeah. But thanks for the thought, Charlie. I appreciate it.
Yes, indeed. So, the family goes to sleep, leaving some of the younger children awake. And I believe this is around 10 p.m.
Yes.
At 12:30, something happens where the mother, Jenny, is woken up. The telephone rings. Not entirely strange. She gets up, she goes downstairs to answer it, and she describes the caller as a woman who was asking for a man's name that is unfamiliar to Jenny.
Right.
In the background, she hears a party type of environment, lots of laughing and chatting and clinking glasses and all that. So Jenny tells the woman that, "Sorry, I think you have the wrong number." Remarks later on that the woman had a strange laughed weirdly, something like that.
Yep.
And then hung up the phone. And that was something that Jenny would later, mention as being something she felt was strange that night. A few things that are strange happened that night.
Yeah. It's so different thinking that, because she had to walk all the way downstairs to answer the phone. It's just, I know this is 70 years ago, but I have a phone strapped to my wrist, man. I can't imagine having to walk down a flight of stairs to answer a phone.
I'm surprised she even answered.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. I don't know.
Well, my grandparents, if you called after 7 p.m., it was they were not answering the phone. One of my grandmothers used to take the phone off the hook after 8, just so nobody called.
So Jenny returns to bed, but as she notices a few things that are strange. It's 12:30 and the lights are still on. Furthermore, the curtains are not drawn and the doors are unlocked.
Right.
And Marion, the 17-year-old daughter, is sleeping on the living room couch. Now, Jenny assumes that the other children must have went up to the attic where they slept, which they described it as an attic. I'm not sure how accurate that is. I think it was only a 2-story house, but maybe it did have an attic.
So I know, growing up, a lot of houses in New England and the Northeast would have finished attics where that were usually playrooms for kids and bedrooms. I know this is a little before I was born, but I just assumed that it was a small attic bedroom style thing because you have 10 kids where I know they had money, but you got to put them somewhere. So
definitely. So Jenny assumes that the other children must have gone to sleep. And so what she does is she closes the curtains, she turns off the lights. It didn't say if she locked the door, I assume she does. But regardless, she returns to bed. About 30 minutes go by when she's awoken again at about 1 a.m. At 1 a.m., she describes hearing a loud bang, which she likened to an object hitting the roof and then rolling off. She heard nothing else. She sits up, keeps an ear out, hears nothing else, and so she goes back to bed.
So I remember reading that part and thinking you got a bedroom with kids in it above. I was just wondering how she was able to distinguish that it wasn't something just in the attic with the kids chilling and not on top of the roof. I know it loops back around to make sense, but at the time,
well, I would have assumed Santa.
Right? Yeah.
It's Christmas Eve, you hear something on the roof. That's a reasonable assumption.
Bird pooping metal or metal bird? Yes.
That's also an option. A metal bird.
Yes.
Maybe Santa rides it. It's not a sleigh. Anyway, so once again, she goes back to sleep. The next strange thing is when she wakes up at about between 1:30 and 1:45 a.m. She wakes up once more smelling smoke. Okay? That's quite alarming, which is why I suppose we have, smoke alarms in our houses now. She goes to investigate, and she finds a stunning sight, and that is of George's office being consumed by flames.
Specifically around the phone line and fuse box, it was what I read. And,
yes, indeed, that's correct.
With like a few, I just little things like when I'm doing these, I write down notes as I go of things that are just like before I've even finished everything that I'm just like, does that make sense? Like having a fuse box just in the office seemed odd. Aren't you? The fuse box is usually in the basement. They're in a northeastern kind of ish. They're in West Virginia.
Yes.
Yeah, so they have basements. And actually you find out later that there's a fuse box outside too. So I thought that fact was just random. Was wondering about that.
Yeah, that is correct, and it is very, very strange. No, they're not in Georgia. That's Georgetta Foreman we're talking about before. Ignore that. That has no relevance to the Sodder children.
Right. The Foremans do not have anything to do with this, and as far as I can find, there's no connection to the Clintons and Mussolini either.
Well, maybe Mussolini, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm not willing to rule that guy out just yet. I hear he did some pretty bad stuff.
I mean, Clinton and Mussolini, I don't find a connection between those two to each other.
I see. No, yeah, that's fair.
No space yetis yet. Although...
No space yetis, no aliens. This might actually be the first case where I did not hear aliens suggested.
I did not hear aliens on either of them. Although it would make sense on the second one.
So, yeah, what we have is Jenny finding this fire, and she wakes up George and the older sons, who go and wake up as many other children as they can, but not the ones in the attic, interestingly enough.
Right.
That's something I do find fairly odd, especially because later on I do hear that the eldest son does tell police initially he went up to the attic and woke the kids up, but later on changed his story to saying, I called up the attic stairs and didn't get a response.
Which makes a big difference. Whether or not he actually went up there and saw the kids in the attic at the time is
that's huge.
Is a huge detail.
Yep. So yeah, what we have is then only half the family really gets out, at least, at first. Ultimately too, but at first as well. So both the parents, Marion, the 2-year-old Sylvia, John, and George Jr., all escape the home. Unfortunately, they couldn't reach the children upstairs, it says, because the staircase at that moment was engulfed in flames.
Yeah, I had a note about that too. Let me find it here.
I'm trying to get a feel for the architecture of the house.
So it was like a timber frame house, which I had to look up that too. It's which is a more expensive type of wood framed house than just a like a regular studded house, I guess is the difference. But so it said they allegedly couldn't get to the children because the stairway leading to the attic was already on fire. So how if it was already on fire, how could he have gotten up there to say anything to them? All right.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to say.
Two, the office was only on fire when she had gotten there. I guess fire could spread really fast, but when everything had started, we only had the office on fire, and then now all of a sudden, your attic stairs are going to be somewhere in the middle of your house. It just seems like an odd path for everything to travel. Testify.
Yeah, I agree.
What's up? Happy birthday.
I really do wish we had a floor plan or something, because I feel like that could give a much clearer image of what could have happened.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I couldn't find anything even resembling that.
No, and the house isn't there anymore. So,
yes, indeed.
Happy birthday, Testify. 19 years old. GG.
Yes, happy birthday. You made it.
You made it. It's all downhill from here, buddy.
That's true. So, yeah, they yell up the stairs, but they can't get a response. And this is actually where I noted that John said initially to police he went up and saw his siblings sleeping there, and then later would change his story and say, no, of course I couldn't get up there. It was all on fire.
Rip indeed.
Marion attempts to phone for help, but the phone does not work. She cannot place a call. So what she does then is she runs to the neighbor's house and asks them to call. The neighbor responds to her, gets the phone, makes the call, but has trouble actually reaching the operator.
Right. So do you know if in this, in 1945, are we still in the days where you push one number, get an operator, and somebody connects you to somebody?
I think so, because I think the way it works is you contact the operator, and then the operator phones the firehouse and all the people who work there.
Yeah. But like back in the day, you'd have like an operator that would actually like connect, physically connect lines. I didn't know if like that still was going on in the 40s or not.
Oh, that's a good question.
Like was somebody just not there to like connect the lines? You're in like maybe a smallish town.
Yeah, I don't know. Regardless, this isn't the only time it happens. A driver is driving along a road adjacent to this fire and sees it. And so what he does is he runs into a tavern and attempts to phone the authorities as well. Hey, I see a fire. Go get it. But the driver says that he also cannot reach an operator. And I saw someone sort of put forth the theory that maybe the phone was broken. It's kind of strange that we wouldn't have a definitive answer on that.
That was left open-ended too.
Yeah, but regardless, he cannot reach the operator either. Now, I don't know who actually places the call ultimately, but finally the operator is reached by one of these two, or maybe a third party altogether. The fire department is alerted, and they're supposed to begin to mobilize. Now, meanwhile, while all this is happening, George is looking for his ladder to try to reach the attic windows, but the ladder is not there. He looks all around the house, but not only is the ladder not where it's usually left, the ladder is not anywhere to be found. Very strange.
Right, and he said that the ladder was like always in this one spot, like it was regularly used and it was always kept there. Grizzly said that automatic and dial systems were developed in the 20s, so that it must have been like the operator, like you were talking about, like a 911 operator or something they couldn't reach.
Okay. So then what he goes to is the water bucket. Let's see if we can't try to extinguish some of the fire. Unfortunately, the bucket is completely frozen solid. The entire water barrel is ice, rendering it useless.
Which, this was another thing I had put a note down on. Like, so the fire is already big enough to where it's spread from the office up to the attic. I just didn't get what they thought you could. I mean, maybe just out of desperation or whatever. What do you think you're going to do with a bucket of water when the fire is
maybe just the stairwell? It is a whole barrel.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I have no idea. Regardless, I guess they look at it, Then he goes to his trucks. He has 2 trucks, both of which he drives regularly, even just yesterday, and says, I'm going to drive these up next to the house so I can climb on top and get into the window. Neither of the trucks will start. I did hear, someone sort of put forth a theory that maybe that some of these strange occurrences can be written off by, well, obviously it's cold. I don't think anybody deliberately
sabotaged
froze
your water bucket. Right.
Right. I don't think that, there's any mutant here, Iceman, that's devious. Furthermore, the trucks could have been explained away by maybe they flooded the engine, they were panicked, their children might be burning alive, they're hurried, they're rushed, not thinking straight, and that is why the trucks would not start. But I don't think we ever get a clear answer as to why they don't start either.
Yeah. Which is common with like older vehicles like that. Even when I was younger, my dad had like a 60s plow truck, and that thing was easy as hell to flood. So
yeah, and there was also, what was that thing that was missing? The block something?
Oh, yeah. So it's called a block and tackle. It's a set of pulleys that's used to move large objects. I had to look up what a block and... I thought it was fishing stuff. But yeah.
Yeah, that's fair, to be honest.
It's a set of pulleys and rigging equipment or whatever for moving big things, so...
Okay, so yeah. So for some reason, his block and tackle is missing. That's just something that, is notable. So his ladder's gone. The block and tackle is gone. His trucks won't start. There's nothing you can do.
Did they ever mention if they were diesel vehicles like back then? Because like, oh yeah, Wolfsang glow plugs, but I don't think they had that in the 40s. Like, you could just have a diesel vehicle is very difficult to start in the winter time.
Mm-hmm.
I owned
I'm
a
not sure.
diesel Mercedes in Massachusetts. It was a pain in the ass.
So then, as a final last-ditch effort, George, still barefoot, attempts to scale the walls. He attempts to break into a window. He actually does manage to get into a window, I think, while cutting his arms, but not in the attic. And so, unfortunately, he is forced to once again leave the house and watch as it is consumed by flames and burns to the ground. Now, you may say, well, why is he watching this? Where's the fire department? The fire department doesn't arrive for hours. Literally, it takes until like dawn for the fire department to arrive, and the house, they say, probably burned completely to ash to the ground in about 45 minutes.
Right. Which, if you've ever seen a house fire, they do go up pretty quick, and it's also this is there's a war going on. The fire department's already short-staffed for that. You got the middle of the night. You have the fact that the phones, obviously, there's something going on with the phones in this town not working properly. It's just like a perfect storm of disasters. Can you imagine, like, you have no choice left and you just have to stand there and watch a fire burn while 5 of your children are inside of it? Like, that's horrifying. Like, that's so awful. All wood, yeah. It seems pretty rough.
Yep.
Biscuit
so
says
the fire department
is in on it.
Well, the fire department does arrive, and they do a wonderful search of the remains of the house, and they find no bodies, no remains whatsoever. They also rule, and I'm not sure how the fire department rules this. I'm not sure if they ruled it on the scene or just in the end, but they say, all right, yeah, it was caused by faulty wiring.
Right.
And this stuck out to George as something that was very, very strange because he had just gotten the wiring changed, like recently.
He had an electric stove.
He had just got a phone put in. It was, a new fuse box. There wasn't anything about the wiring that should have been faulty because an electrician was just there and said it was good. And of course, if an electrician says it's good, it has to be 100%.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even just the electrician that said that the wiring was good. It was actually looked at by like the electric company because like they had to get new wiring, different kind of wiring put in for a new electric stove. Like it wasn't just the regular thing. They had to have a new type of line ran and everything. So it should be fine.
Now, later on, you heard, I believe in our last episode, we talked a little bit about a coroner's jury, which is assembled to sort of figure out what happened without actually casting blame or anything like that. A coroner's jury is assembled, and through looking at all of the evidence, not really any evidence, just what we've told you, they say the children must have died in the fire and burned completely to ash.
Which is
entirely
completely insane.
No bones, no teeth, no anything. Completely burned to ash.
Which I looked at that, and I also saw something that said modern professionals looked into the case and determined that search was half-assed, and they didn't even have to dive deeply into it. So a common house fire that lasts about 45 minutes, which is typical for a house fire, only burns at about 1100 Fahrenheit. When they cremate bodies, they cremate them at 2000 Fahrenheit for 2 hours, and then they still have bones that they have to deal with afterwards. Like when they cremate a body, like the bones aren't gone. So in any kind of house fire like in all house fires, any regular house fire, there's skeletons remain. Thank you, Mocha, for the host. How you doing? Welcome in. So like that alone is like crazy. And I saw a like YouTube comment or something where somebody's like, well, maybe one of the appliances fell on the kids, like all 5 kids or all 4 kids that are missing. Or appliances fell on their bones and crushed them. Come on.
Yeah, it just kept falling on them too,
over and over
until
again.
They were reduced completely to ash.
So there should have been bones, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been that hard to find some sort of skeletal remains. And even then, I saw that typically you'll find organs too in a fire that's only that hot. You'll find some trace of human organs.
Yeah, definitely. So that's that. I hope you guys enjoyed. That's the end. Now, 1 week goes by. 1 week. And Mr. Sodder, George Sodder, does something that I deem kind of strange, to be honest. But I guess he's grieving. And what he does is he takes dirt and he bulldozes the entire where the house stood, fills it up with 5 feet of dirt over the basement, and he has the intention of making the site into a flower garden memorial. Unfortunately, this likely, if there was evidence there, this probably fucked with a lot of it. But from what I, sort of heard, George would, sort of the family accepted the story at first.
Right.
They were like, yeah, okay, it was a horrible accident, I guess, as strange as that is, and our 5 children burned completely to ash. And that's the story. That's what the fire department has told us. That's what the coroner has told us. Presumably, a police officer has looked at the scene as well, just because, I mean, there's potential for arson,
Right.
Especially with the block and tackle and ladder not being located, which they aren't, at least not of yet. So I guess if all of that happened within a week, George could have accepted that and then filled in the dirt and turned the house into a memorial. I'm not completely willing to rule that as strange.
Right.
You know?
You're saying you don't think it's strange that George bulldozed the site, filled it with dirt, and turned it into a memorial.
Not necessarily. It's not 100% bizarre.
I didn't find it either. Like I said, that him and his wife, like you said, they basically accepted the decision they were given, and they were grieving, they were upset, they couldn't stand the sight of this anymore, and they just figured, like, when you're in that kind of emotional state, like, you might not do the most rational things. And
exactly. And just like you said, and just like Biscuit said, grief makes people do weird things. I actually have a header on this section of my notes that's just grief.
Right.
Like, I completely agree. That's where my head's at too. And West Virginia, by the way, is where this takes place.
Right.
What happens is that later on, the family starts to say, you know what, maybe that didn't make sense. And the more they think about it, the more loud they get about it. That didn't make sense. That was wrong. There was something wrong there. And they demand answers. I will tell you right now that this case obviously is unsolved. We're going through it. This family, every single member of them, fought until they died to get this case out there. They wanted to find the truth, and even today, some of the descendants of the Sodders, the grandchildren, are still running websites, doing interviews, trying to get to the bottom of what happened to their ancestors.
Right.
So to this day, the Sodders do not accept the official answer. And I think that's fair, to be honest. And we'll get into a few more things as to why.
All right, there we go.
All right, so this next part, I would like to rewind to October of 1945 to an insurance salesman who knocks on the door.
Yes.
This part, I'll be honest, when I was listening to other people sort of narrate this case and go through the turn of events, I had to pause because I was laughing that fucking hard. And you'll see why, because there's a dark comedy in what I'm about to tell you, I think. So October 1945, let's set the scene. It's actually 6 months after Mussolini has been deposed and executed in Italy. A life insurance salesman visits the Sodder household. They have a conversation, and George apparently rebuffs the man. That was the word that was used. I'm not sure how heated it got, but the insurance guy, he's really pissed because he starts screaming. It gets into this huge argument where the insurance salesman said, and I quote, "Your house will go up in smoke and your children will be destroyed."
Yeah. Which, who the fuck says that to somebody, for one? Like, no matter how mad you are at somebody, like, you just don't say that type of thing. But
well,
and then to have
he actually tacks on as well at the very end. He says, "For the dirty remarks you've been making about Mussolini."
Right. Hemp asked about the mafia. So this
was before Biscuit.
Does the mafia, like, historically have connections to Mussolini? Because, like, I keep hearing the mafia come up in this, and I didn't realize that the Italian mafia was connected in any way or in support of or anything. So that whole, like, historical part of it didn't quite make sense to me on why, these people would be mad about it and why the mafia would be involved in it.
Well, yeah, and I do know a little bit about the Mussolini mafia connection, which actually made it even stranger to me that this is brought up, because the mafia and Mussolini were enemies, like strong enemies. Mussolini said the mafia undermined his rule. He declared war on them, wanted them driven out of Italy.
See, that makes sense.
So I don't understand why the fuck the mafia would be pro-Mussolini in any capacity. That really, and I tried looking into that and I couldn't really find anyone theorizing. So like, you just said, the mafia keeps getting brought up in this case. It doesn't make sense to me. The mafia and Mussolini were adversaries. At least everything I know about them, they were adversaries.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I had found too. I just wouldn't think that, just because of the nature of how, like, the mafia, went about things, took care of, why they were formed, all of that just didn't really seem to fit in with Mussolini's Italy. So
yeah, and so this insurance salesman comes up, he says all that shit, he leaves. And this is in October of 1945, whereas in December the house would burn down. Another strange thing does happen, where I didn't see a date for this, but another visitor actually came to the house, and he was a man who was looking for work. And I guess that he was talking with George and sort of walking around the property with him. And they go around to the back of the house, And there's a pair of fuse boxes on the back of the house, like you said. There's also apparently a pair inside in his office. But there's 2 fuse boxes on the back of the house. And he points that to George, these 2 rewired fuse boxes, and he says, those are going to cause a fire someday.
Yeah, which is also pretty fucking suspicious.
It's fucking strange.
Right.
And there's just a lot of those types of things in this case, I think, where it's just strange. And then in the weeks leading up to the incident, the last thing I have noted here is that George's older sons had made note of a car they had been seeing that was parked along the main highway through town, with the occupants, according to the oldest Sodder children, watching the younger Sodder children go to and from school.
Yeah. Which you get away with that, I guess, back then. These days, like, if you're sitting creeping around a bunch of school kids, like, you're going to get called out for that.
Right. There was even a story I heard about where a member of the FBI was looking for a pedophile.
Yeah.
And the mothers called the police because there's a strange man staking out the school.
Yeah.
And it was the FBI guy sitting in his car. So, yeah, nowadays people are vigilant. Back then, I don't know. Just out for an evening stalk, I guess. I guess that's completely normal. But what's odd to me is that the police don't seem to give too much of a shit about any of this.
No.
Remnants of last week.
Right. That seems to be all of these that we've done, I think, have pretty much had one thing in common, and that's that it's either incompetent investigations or, the officials don't give a shit.
Yeah, 100%. The police don't seem to be bothered by a man saying, your house is going to burn down and your children are going to go missing.
Right.
And they don't seem to care about a guy who says, those fuse boxes are going to light on fire one day. And they don't look for the guy in the car who is, stalking the Sodder children, seemingly, some of whom are now missing.
Right.
Now, I did find one thing, and I had to dig a little bit to find this. But I did finally find out that there was another person at the house that night.
Yes. I did
and this explains where the ladder and the block and tackle go.
And the phone line, too, right?
Yeah, but it only raises more questions to me.
Right.
There is a thief that is caught. And I don't know how they catch this guy, but he stole the block and tackle that night.
Yeah.
He goes to the Sodder household, takes their ladder, presumably, climbs up the telephone pole, but he says to the police, I don't mean to cut the phone line. That was accidental. I meant to cut their electricity.
Right.
So he cuts it, thinking he cut the electricity. He cuts the phone by mistake, which, if you're stealing, why wouldn't... You would rather cut the phone than the electricity. If my electric goes out, I'm investigating. If my phone goes out, I'm not noticing.
Can't you not cut an like if you're on like a ladder, even if it's a wooden ladder, and you go up and cut an electrical line, aren't you going to get zapped?
I'd think so. Maybe he had the proper tools.
I don't think there is proper tools for that. Like, don't you have to
I have no idea.
Isn't there something? There's got to be something. You can't just go up and chop a line. I mean, not that.
He does something. I don't know. Regardless, I did hear that the ladder was, like, found in a ravine somewhere.
Yeah.
So I guess he took the ladder with him, which is also fucking bizarre.
And then dumped it. Yeah, it said it was, like, 75 feet away from, like, where it normally was, down over an embankment, like basically hidden. Let's see.
Yeah, and so you have this guy who was there that night who cut a wire, and what do the police do? They talk to him. They say, all right, well, you're going to pay a fine for that, and you're free to go.
Right. Wolf says you have to ground the wire. I doubt dude's grounding wires while he's out there stealing blocks and tackles. So,
yeah, I don't know. It's just a very strange detail. The characters in this story are very odd.
Right. In this
you have the
story,
insurance salesman. Now you have this guy.
In this story, they keep getting leads and they just let them go. In the next story, they freaking ride leads to death. So
that's true. See, we planned that from the start. That was always the connection we just revealed right there.
Full circle, baby.
Right. So what we have is this thief. He pays a fine and he leaves, and that's it. Which is strange because you'd think it would at least be worth being like, oh, well, maybe
cool beans. Onward toe.
Maybe him cutting the lines, the wire caused a fire, and then that's manslaughter, at the very least.
Right.
And no, they don't really care too much about that. It's just a coincidence, I guess.
Just let his ass go.
So the Sodders aren't too happy with that, and so they hire a PI who goes by the name of C.C. Tinsley.
Sounds like a PI name.
He does. You have to be a PI with a name like that. And so C.C. Tinsley starts doing a little bit of investigating himself, and he finds a couple things out. Does better police work than the police. I would like to lead in first with the coroner's jury, bringing it back to that.
Okay.
He goes back to the coroner's jury, who deemed that the fire was accidental and the children burned entirely till nothing was left. And he goes to find out who was on that coroner's jury. And does anyone want to take a guess as to who was a part of that decision that the fire was accidental and the children burned entirely to ash?
Right.
I'll give you guys a little Jeopardy music.
Some assholes.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have Jeopardy music actually.
It was Mussolini.
Was it? Yeah, it was not Mussolini. Here we go. I got Jeopardy music. And
oh, that's all right. We got it.
Here we go. The insurance guy.
Moby is absolutely correct.
Yes.
The crazed insurance salesman.
Yes. 100%. Definitely not aliens. You know?
The crazed insurance salesman took part in that decision that was made.
Yeah, which is fucking nuts that, like, it's just so crazy. Like, I know that we've gotten to a point where, like, we're so overdone with, like, paperwork and procedure and everything these days. Like, but back then, it's just crazy that the dude who had, like, threatened the guy who is, like, involved in the case can somehow still be part of the inquest that decides what actually happened.
Yeah. Now, granted, it's World War II. This is a town of only about 12 to 1,500 people, I think, very small.
Right.
Presumably at this point in history, I would guess that women couldn't be on a coroner's jury. The firefighters probably couldn't be. So maybe there's only like 20 people left in the town.
There isn't
really.
a lot of options.
A numbers game.
This is like the new Ace Attorney game.
So that's what Tinsley finds out. Unfortunately, it's true, Charlie. They're too hysterical. They'd be cracking jokes every second.
We need to treat them for hysteria, right? Female hysteria.
So it's fucking ridiculous to me. Unfortunately, they don't actually... Like, that's the last I heard of the insurance salesman. Did you find any other mention of this guy?
Oh, yeah. So, definitely.
Okay.
So, it turns out that this insurance salesman... Let me find... Because I have it a little bit further down on here. Okay. So, they learned that him being on the coroner's inquest, right? And then they also find out that he had... let's see here. All right, so he had gone around town and basically was telling people, including a minister, that he had found a heart in the remains of the
right, that's
building.
Not the insurance salesman.
Are you sure?
Yeah, that was the fire chief. F.J. Morris.
I had it written as insurance salesman. Okay. I don't have anything else for him.
Okay. So that's the last we heard of the insurance salesman.
My bad.
No, that's all right. That's all right. Pete and Nick ASMR. All right, yeah. So, C.C. Tinsley.
The lady.
He goes around. You know what? One more comment on the insurance salesman. It did strike me funny, the idea of the mafia. Like, was this guy an insurance salesman or was he a life insurance salesman?
Exactly.
Hey, you want to insure your life? I can insure your life continues for an easy payment of $99, a month or whatever the fuck they charge. I don't know.
Well, there was, I mean, this goes further back out there, but it was saying that it was possible he was being extorted too. So the insurance salesman could have been part of that. I mean, if you're gonna extort money from somebody and you're going to try and threaten them, what better way than to send an insurance salesman to their? I mean, there are better ways, but one way would be to send an insurance salesman to their house selling life insurance or whatever, and then basically, with like a huge emphasis on the possibilities that could happen, the accidents that you could face if you don't.
Your house is going to go up in smoke.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yep.
He was in trucking. Hemp says he was working for them. Hey, I've watched The Sopranos. I know that all the dudes that are involved in like waste management are all involved with the mafia. So
that's true. All Italians
yes.
too.
Yep.
Every single one.
Mm-hmm.
Except this guy.
Yeah. Maybe the mafia stole their kids as payment for something and then burned the house. Maybe.
So, what we have is F.J. Morris, the fire chief. C.C. Tinsley finds his way back to him. How? Well, apparently F.J. Morris had found something, like you said, at the scene of the crime that day, but didn't tell anyone, except for his priest.
Right.
His priest then started gossiping about it.
Yeah. Like, minister is supposed to keep their mouth shut, right? You go in there, you do confession or whatever. It's supposed to be private, but
Although I'm sort of glad he does, because it does lead to, a discovery of evidence at the very least. So, yeah, the priest or the minister, he goes to C.C. Tinsley and he's like, yeah, you know what F.J. Morris confessed to me?
Yeah.
He confessed that while he was, searching through the rubble, he found an organ of one of the Sodder children. But he thought it was one of the remains of the bodies, but he didn't say anything. And instead he put it in a dynamite box, which he just has on him, and buries it in the house.
In Oregon, yes.
So, C.C. Tinsley goes up to F.J. Morris, and he just goes, what the fuck, man? Really? And he convinces Morris to take him to where he buried it so they can dig it up. They do so, they find the dynamite box, they bring it out, and inside is a liver. A cow's liver. How the fuck it got there, I have no idea. None.
Well, he does say why he did it, right? So...
Well, right, he found it and was like, oh, it's the remains, I can be respectful and give the child a burial or something, right?
So what I had was that he later admitted that the box did not contain a heart and that it was a beef liver, and that he had buried it hoping that the Sodder family would find it and accept that their children had died in the fire, which, like...
That's even worse.
Which makes no fucking sense at all, because, all right, it didn't have any fire damage to it. It had never been exposed to fire. It was in a box. So, like, okay, your kid burns in a fucking fire, and their organ, their heart, whatever part you're trying to pass this off for, and it finds its way into a dynamite box and buries itself under the ground, makes fucking zero sense.
Yeah, but then even furthermore, you have the whole problem of, the fire department searches, says no remains were found. He buries this in the box and then tells no one,
right,
except his priest. How the fuck was that his grand plan? Oh, I know. Father Thomas, he can't keep his mouth shut.
Right.
That dude's a gossip. Word's going to get back to him. I don't think so. That's ridiculous. So I have no fucking idea what's going on with any of the people in this town.
Yeah.
I think there was something in the water, to be honest with you.
Probably. If it's like a coal mining town, that causes some crazy pollution. All the explosive chemicals gets into the water, starts getting people all fucking weird. Fucking Father Thomas, it's right.
So years later, there is another excavation, right?
Yes.
And they do find something big in the wreckage this time. They find the remnants of bones.
Vertebrae.
Which they analyze, and it's from a 16 to 22-year-old man, which was not the age range or sex of any of the victims.
Right.
And it didn't actually have any fire damage on it. So this was sort of a false alarm, unfortunately, where the best guess that I saw for what the fuck it was doing there is that it was either there previously and they built the house on top of it or something, or potentially more likely, George Sodder accidentally dug up part of some dude's spine when he was getting fill dirt to plow the house and, turn it into a garden.
Which, isn't there like a whole other mystery there as to who the fuck's spine this is that you just buried over your burnt house? Like, they just like gloss over that. Okay, yeah, we found some vertebrae bones that belong to an unidentified male. But they're not the bones we're looking for, so we're just gonna leave this shit alone,
Irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And Mumpy says, good question, did they find the other remains of the cow? Why would the cow be in the house?
Yeah, seriously.
I don't know.
JJ Builds, thank you for the follow. Welcome into the shit show. I'm Pete. The handsome man next to me is Nick, and you're in the middle of our first story here, talking about the Sodder children and the case that went along with that. House cows, Grace Nut, must be a Canadian thing. You can check out Nick's links over there in the chat as well.
That's true. So, what we have as well is a lot of sightings of these children. So as I said, George and the rest of the Sodder family does not take this as an answer. They say, our kids are still out there. They must be. They must have been kidnapped. That's sort of the conclusion, because obviously, from what we can conclude, they very likely did not die in that house. So where are they?
Right.
Unfortunately, with this comes a ton of sightings. And when you have sightings, the credibility of them is strange. But I did hear, I think 3 in particular, that were sort of thrown out there as maybe being a little more credible than others, aliens, right?
Oh, but before the sightings and everything, maybe I'm out of order here, but they put a billboard up too.
Oh, sure, yeah. I forget when the billboard was constructed, but definitely put that up.
They put a billboard up with the pictures of all the missing kids with information, looking for it, because they.
Oh, that's only after they get the photograph, though.
I thought they added it to the photo.
Oh, did they? Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so put the billboard up then. That's good.
Yeah, they basically went full tilt into looking into this themselves. Like George was just like had enough, and he was like, nobody else is gonna look into these freaking kids. I'm gonna do it myself. So I'll pull up the billboard while you keep going.
Sure, and I can talk a little bit about the FBI actually. George did write to the FBI about potentially giving some help, and J. Edgar Hoover, I think, did actually write a response back saying, hey, my heart goes out to you. I really do apologize, but this is outside of our jurisdiction. This is a local matter. However, we can offer our help to local authorities. They do so. The FBI goes to the local authorities. They say, hey, we're the FBI. We'd like to help out in this investigation. The local authorities go, nah, that's all right. That's all right. We got it.
Yeah. So for the FBI to actually get involved, they needed the locals to call for help, and they refused to. Yeah, I have the billboard here. So the first version of the billboard doesn't have the photo on there. They do update it and add the photo onto it later on that comes up. So
good. Yeah. So you can talk a little bit about this billboard, what we're seeing.
So, yeah. Hold on. So they end up deciding they're going to put up a billboard to try and pull up some more leads, and this does generate a bunch more tips afterwards. But it's like it's an eerie thing, right? So like you're in a small town and you're going around, you're always driving by this, like you're seeing this billboard all the time. They constructed it themselves. It wasn't like, probably wasn't maintained very well. It's just like a spooky ass billboard to have up there.
I heard they did actually maintain it all the way up until 86, I want to say.
Okay. I didn't really have anything much about the billboard other than the fact that they put that in there kind of when he went in full on trying to find,
It's very interesting, and I do like that they sort of titled it just straight up, what was their fate? Kidnapped, murdered, or are they still alive? Like, respect to the Sodder family who really went with, like, some clickbait back
I was
then.
going to say, it's very clickbaity
Like, that's a
billboard.
really good title,
yeah.
guys. Good work.
It's a very clickbaity billboard.
I know that's, a stupid compliment, but no.
Yeah.
Gets me interested. Gets a lot of people interested.
Also,
a lot of sightings start rolling in.
$5,000 is a lot of money in, like, 1945.
Oh, yeah.
Wonder
if they got an insurance payout.
Interesting.
From the house. But, so one woman does claim to have seen the missing children from a passing car while the fire was still in process.
Right, with Florida license plates on it, which comes back into some of the theories and other stuff that happened later on. Yeah.
Right. You did it.
I knew somebody was going to say that I was responsible for it because I live in Florida.
Well, Shock isn't here tonight,
yeah.
So, we need a scapegoat.
Yeah. The dad bought life insurance for the kids before the fire. I don't know about that. That'd be some crazy foreshadowing.
A woman operating a tourist stop then. If they bought life insurance on the children or anything like that, then they wouldn't be the loudest advocates that it was.
Yeah, exactly.
Foul play.
Yeah.
So a woman at a tourist stop 50 miles to the west of this says that she saw the children the next day eating breakfast. And she noted that there was a car in the parking lot with Florida plates.
Right. So there is some consistency with the Florida plates, and there's more too, because Jenny had family in Florida as well.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It's very strange. And then the last one that I made note of is actually in a Charleston hotel. A woman saying, strangely enough, she saw 4 of the 5 children. Only 4. A week after the fire, accompanied by 2 women and 2 men, all of whom she described as Italian.
Yeah, said they spoke Italian and got kind of irritated when she was like checking out the kids and
she apparently went up to try to just make conversation to the kids, to the family, to what's going on, and the man was very hostile.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, she actually, strangely enough, she described it as being like frozen out. So I don't know if she was like trying to talk and they were just looking at her, not talking or something like that, like pretending she didn't exist. But very suspicious behavior, nonetheless. I did also hear that at this point the FBI does launch its own investigation. since there's now a theory of kidnapping across state lines.
Right.
That gives the FBI the green light. They do launch an investigation. However, it comes up completely empty. Of course, I don't know what the FBI really did in their investigation, so I can't really talk too much on that. All we know is that nothing happened.
Only thing I had from the FBI was that they dropped the case after 2 years of following, goofy leads. That didn't give them anything, so they basically just dropped it, which isn't, is that really the FBI the way they do it? I thought they kept cases open. Just because they don't have a lead, I didn't think they typically just closed the case.
Yeah, I don't know if the FBI ultimately just went with the local authorities. Maybe because the local authorities did, close the case and say it was an accident, the FBI sort of went back to that. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. So, yeah, then what do I have here? So bringing it back to the mafia, coal trucking, I made a note of, was actually under pressure at the time from Italian mafia. They really did, they were present in that industry. But once again, I thought the mafia hated Mussolini, so it's kind of odd for any mafia connection, but I have no idea.
Yeah.
Then let's see, I have the cremation you mentioned. I have the FBI you mentioned. Oh, I have this. So I believe it was, several months after the incident, they did return to the scene, the Sodder family. Presumably they did that a lot, I would imagine, to pay respects maybe. And I believe it was Jenny who found the remnants of something in the yard.
Oh, was it? I thought it was the youngest daughter, Sylvia.
Okay.
And she brought it to her mom.
They stumble upon this, they bring it to the parents look at it, and it's this weird thing that I can't find pictures of and can't find great descriptions of, but they describe it as looking at a kind of napalm bomb.
I found in one description that it was described as sort of like a pineapple grenade, which is your typical, when you think of a grenade. I think it's actually whatever my badge is for 1 month subscribers or something.
Well, but they might have been on sticks, I think.
Oh, okay.
Back then.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Maybe not. But regardless, yeah. So it's the remnants of a bomb they say it looks like. Unfortunately, I don't think that this is taken into evidence. I can't find any pictures of it.
Hey, what's up, man?
A lot of people reel it back to what Jenny, the mother, heard that night, which was something hitting the roof and rolling off.
Right. Which, there was a witness that saw something that ties all back into that. So
a bus driver.
Right.
Go ahead.
So there was a bus driver that was driving through town at the night of the fire and said that saw some people throwing what looked like fireballs at the roof of the house right before the fire. Which, why won't you call the police when you see that? I don't get that at all. That didn't make any sense to me. But he sees people basically throwing these fire bombs or fire grenades up on top of the house, which, like you said, ties into the fact that the mom had heard something roll down the roof a half an hour before the fire had started. So.
And then another problem is that this is months later.
Right.
You have the fact that all of that new dirt with the new skeleton was brought in. It could have been from there. Someone could have dropped it there. Maybe it wasn't a bomb at all. This is months after the event, and the night of, everybody searches. I assume the parents themselves searched, and this isn't located. So that's just a strange story, but, only adds on to the question marks, I think, in this case.
Right. That's true.
Yep. So then, if you would like to get into the photo, I think... Oh, one more thing I actually did find was the caller. They finally did find the caller.
Right, the woman that called the house.
That's true. That's
late that night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool beans. Onward, toe. Let's
They
talk to
do
the trees.
discover, the police, that it's just a wrong number by a neighbor.
Right.
That's it. So that was the end of that. So that one, I think, is brought up a lot, and, we can bitch about the media, too, because that's another common theme, is the media really muddying the waters of all these investigations that we're covering. And once again here, not the popular media, but actually our new true crime media puts a lot of emphasis on that phone call. Even we did.
Yeah.
It's a good hook. But at the end of the day, it was probably just a weird wrong number of the neighbors having a Christmas party and trying to dial the house next door,
Right, because this is Christmas
to me,
Eve.
That's that.
Christmas Eve, people are drinking, being merry,
right.
Jolly, chilling, having a good time. So I don't know. I don't think that there's anything to that. I think it's just a coincidence. But there's a lot of coincidences this night. Like, you got...
That's the thing,
You have all these people that see all this weird stuff going on around the house that night. You have these noises that wake her up. The fact that the kids didn't do their normal things. You have a thief that's on the property. You have your ladder's gone missing. Your phone line's been cut. Your house catches on fire. The fire department's unreachable. They do eventually get a hold of the chief, I guess, but he said he couldn't drive the fire truck. He was incapable of driving the fire truck, which is part of the reason they were so slow to respond. But like, there's just so much crap that happens this night, and it's just like all written off as coincidence, which I guess there's so many people, there's so many days, there's so many moments that all of us experience in this world in a 100-year, time span. Weird shit happens, and sometimes it just happens. Sometimes it's just coincidence.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, there are a couple of leads that I have here where George himself would track them down, his entire life. He actually went down to Florida to investigate if they were staying with relatives. They were not. He went to New York City, actually, when he saw a newspaper photo of school children who he thought resembled his missing children, one of them at least, and he drove all the way up to Manhattan to search for the child, but unfortunately he was not allowed actually to speak with the child. The parents answer the door and they go, "Get out of here, you weirdo."
Was this the ballet picture?
I think so.
Yeah. I tried finding the photo. I couldn't find the ballet photo that said he looked like
Unfortunately.
it. I did find the other photo that he had gotten, though.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us about this strange photo, which is really the big piece in this case, I would say, is this photograph.
Right. So years after, Jenny, his wife, receives a letter with no return address on it, postmarked from Central City, Kentucky, with a photo inside. When she looked at the photo looked to be of a man about in his 30s, which would have matched their son Lewis's age and looked a hell of a lot like Lewis. I agree, looks a hell of a lot like Lewis. On the back of the photo was written, "Lewis Sodder, I love brother Frankie." I think it says, it's like
I-L-I-L?
Yeah, like I-L-I-L. So I don't know if it's supposed to be one little boys or four little boys or something like that, with like some sort of typo on it. And then the numbers A90132, or maybe it's 135. It's hard to make out. Which they ended up getting this photo blown up and hanging it over their fireplace. It also got added to the billboard. I'm going to pull the photo up here too.
Absolutely.
So open image, a new tab, boom, and boom. So right here on the right is the photo that they were given. Here is the young Lewis's photo. So the thought is that this is actually a photo of him that just gets sent to him. It looks a fucking hell of a lot like him. You know what I mean? Like, I'll blow it up. It
definitely does.
More. Like, and so that, like I said, they add that to the billboard as well.
Do we have a year for when this comes in?
So it just, all I had was a few years later. It doesn't, well, I guess actually it's got to be more than a few years because the kid's 30 now. So it's got to be, so it's years later. It's got to be 20 years after.
What is interesting is that when, do we have the text of the photo, the back?
I have, I copied it. I didn't have a, let me see if I can pull up a picture of it.
Because I did actually hear somebody put forth the theory. In fact, I think one of the family members might have, but don't quote me on that. I might be wrong. But somebody put forth the theory that it actually didn't read 90132 or 90135. It's possible that the 901 excuse me, the 90.
Rip with the jump scare. Let's go.
Right, it was next to A, capital A, 90. Could have actually been an attempt at age. So, I don't know.
Okay, I mean, that could be age 132, though. Like,
I don't know what the 1 would be, but
can
32
you see it?
or 35.
I didn't share my screen with you.
Oh, wait, it actually said or 35.
Right.
I see. When I didn't see the picture, so I assumed it was like a smudge where they couldn't make out if it was a 2 or a 5.
Me too.
I see.
So it looks
A90132 or 35. Okay, that's even stranger.
So it looks like it's saying whatever A901 means, 32 or 35. Maybe that's the age. Like, but
I also did find that apparently 90132 and 90135 are both zip codes in Palermo, Sicily.
You did scare me, Rip. It's, oh shit, really?
Yeah. So there's zip codes in Sicily, and some people do theorize that the mafia, for some reason, took these children back to Italy and raised them, I guess. That's the problem, is that we don't have a whole lot of great leads. We have like an interesting bit of information like this. The picture, my God, it looks like him. Look at this strange note on the back. What could it mean? And then we don't know, you know?
That is fucking weird. Rip with the 100 bits. Dude, thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. By the way, guys, I did disable for tonight's stream the sexy sax sound alert because it keeps getting claimed on YouTube. And so I did disable it for tonight's stream. But, oh, Biscuit with another 300 bits. Here we go. Thank you very much,
nice.
Biscuit. Appreciate you. We just love being able to do this stuff for you. It's these are definitely like probably I don't want to like talk shit about the other streams I do, but these might be my favorite. Not sure.
These are pretty good. These are pretty good.
They're a lot of fun. Thank you very much, Biscuit and Rip. Appreciate you.
Also, I guess, is this where we shill? Is this where we say, or this is where I shill? Everyone who does gifted subs or bits, I do get 50%.
That is true.
So if you want to throw biddies at both Pete and myself, you know, we do split them.
Yep.
So there you go. I was going to call it something, but I won't. It made it sound a little sexual, I'll admit. You know? But it's an arrangement.
That's true.
That's all I'm saying.
It is a very special
Cool beans.
arrangement.
One
Rip
more
with
time.
another
Talk to
310.
trees.
Thank you very much. Your bits are for Nick only. Ooh. Uh-oh.
I don't know if we can, you know, divvy that up properly, but I appreciate it, Biscuit.
Grace, I do not take the extra 5%. I don't think anybody but me and you are going to get that joke, though. I don't take the extra 5%. Thank you very much, y'all. I appreciate it. And yes, we do, we like he said, we do split everything 50-50 on these streams. So if you want to support both of us, you don't have to go and dump bits on Nick's channel and come back here. Although if you want to do that, that's fine too. Nick will just get he'll get the extra 50%.
That's true. That's true. It's like throwing something into the hat, you know, on the street.
If I gift myself, will you guys also split me? Says Wes. That's, I mean, I guess we could. We'll flip.
Is that like what was that, King Solomon? Is that right?
I was thinking more of like a spit roast, but yeah, we go King Solomon. So, yes, there's a bunch of crazy leads and stuff that he ended up chasing down here. I kind of got lost on my thing here, so I'm just talking to try and stall until I find where I was. Oh, okay,
no
I
problem.
found where I am. I'm good. So
Yeah, get into it.
So yeah. So like we said before, George starts investigating this all on his own and starts chasing down tips. Like Nick had said, he had gone to New York, chased down a kid. He went to Florida, because so it was his wife's sister, right? So his sister-in-law who he chased down. He actually made her prove that those kids were her own. Like he refused to leave the property until she was able to prove that those were her kids. Hey, Jess, thank you for the lurk. Appreciate it.
No worries.
But then he gets a very interesting lead that takes him to Houston, where a woman had said that George's son Lewis was there and revealed his true identity to her after getting drunk, and that Lewis and Maurice were living in Texas, right? Mm-hmm. George and his son-in-law went to visit the woman, but were for some reason unable to see her. But the Texas police did help them find the two men that she was identifying as being George's kids, but they denied having any relation to him or knowing anything about it, right? But George, it did not sit right with him at all. Like, he felt like they were hiding something. He's like, these are my kids. Like, he was pretty confident in it. I guess to the day he died, he was very, very confident that there was something else going on there, that they were either related to him or knew something about it. Thank you, Wolf, for the 69 bits, baby.
Nice.
Appreciate you. Which, like, I get it. Like, you got to be going crazy. Like, your entire life gets devoted into finding out what happened here. Like, there's no answers. It's like when parents are looking for their lost children or whatever, and they suspect that they're murdered, but they don't find out, like there's like that closure that you finally get when you know like what happened, where they ended up, and all that. And they never get this with this case. Like they spend the rest of their life trying to figure out what happened. Like you said, their family is still trying to figure out what happened. Hey, and Wolf, with some more bits, baby. Thank you very much.
I would say also, do you know if Sylvia is still alive as of now?
I think Sylvia died in 2020. Shit. I don't have the year. She died only within the last 10 years.
All right, yeah. And, the grandchildren, like I said, are still going forth. So the Sodder children, it is safe to say, are dead now.
Right.
All of the Sodder children, everyone we've told you about in this story is deceased, probably very long in the ground. And what's very odd with that is, George would die.
1969.
Again, I didn't write down when.
1969.
Okay, hey, nice.
Hey.
Yeah, he would die in 1969. He kept it up all the way until his death, I think. His wife would live into the 80s and do the same. She even ran her own crematorium-like exercises where she would burn animal bones and see if she could replicate what she was told happened with animal bones, and she wasn't able to.
Right. She was also going back to the site like once a week, dressed fully in black, mourning the children, like tending to the flower garden that she had built over where it was. And like these parents were fucked up from this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like
in this case, really, it had legs. Not really. It had eyes on it, I guess is what I was trying to say. It has like that viral type of quality where a lot of people gave a shit about this case and wanted to see a conclusion. And very unfortunately, everyone is dead. There were never any more letters. That was it. That picture, if you can even call that a letter, might have even just been a prank, which is an odd prank, but could have been.
There's some stories that are on like my short list that involve like really fucked up stuff like that, where people do start pranking and messing with people who lose a loved one with stuff like photos and fake evidence and everything to get their hopes up. It's messed up.
Although nowadays, fake evidence must be a little easier to produce than back then.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. But, when you said crematorium exercises, I imagine exercising with urn.
Feel the burn.
Yeah.
There were never any escape attempts. There were never any phone calls. There were never any deathbed confessions. And a lot of these kids, actually all of the kids, were old enough at this point to have memories of where they were taken from.
Right.
It's possible that they were, told your entire family died in the fire, I guess. It's just, it's strange. It's strange to me.
Right. I think that's all of the actual evidence, right? Is there anything we missed before we get into what we think might have happened and
I think
talk
that's
about it?
So, yeah, I'll throw up a poll as we do.
Okay. Just going to double check and see if there's anything that I had that I wanted to hit before we do.
So what do we want to have on here? A natural electrical issue, I guess.
Yep.
Some sort of maybe mafia connection.
Right, because there's like arson that could be done from a few people. Hey, Biscuit, thank you for the 100 bits. With that applause, thank you so much.
Well, you know what? Let's first say what burned down the house.
Hey, another one. Thank you very much, Biscuit. Double duty. Appreciate it. Thank you for the good job. GG's. I don't.
So what do we have? A natural electric issue or mafia arson, I guess, are really the two real things of what burned down the house, right?
I mean, there's a few things that could be arson related, right? Like you could have had something that went wrong when that dude broke in and stole stuff. You could have had that insurance person come in and burn stuff down like afterwards. Maybe he wasn't connected to the mafia. There's a lot of little things. There's nothing that's huge, in my opinion.
Yeah, so what I have here then is, it was a natural electrical issue, it was mafia arson, thief accidental arson, or insurance guy arson.
Yeah.
We're sort of leaning heavy on the arson here, but that's okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Everybody vote. There's a poll up there.
Yes, there's the bomb thing, which, Grace, that could go into the whole arson thing, which, like, if it started from like an electrical fire around the office, would make no sense. It just doesn't make sense the way the fire would travel, right? If they're burning it down because they're throwing fireballs or whatever to the roof, right? For one, the kids in the attic would be the first ones to go. They would have the hardest time getting to them. That could make sense. If it started in the office, it makes less sense to me about it.
Well, now the kids were awake, so it's possible that the kids were abducted out of the house while they were still awake because the lights were still on.
Right.
So it's possible they were interrupted, but I don't quite know how. I guess the two boys went out to feed the chickens. What's interesting to me is Marion, who was asleep on the couch, never really said what happened that night. I wish that we knew, you know?
Yeah, we don't really get anything out of her. Hey, Jim, what's up, dude? How you doing? Shipwreck Dan said, from what I thought, it would take a fire hotter than a house fire to burn the bones. Yeah, we talked about that. It would be, it's 1,100 degrees is your average house fire, and it's about 45 minutes is what the house burned for, where it takes 2,000 just to cremate a body, 2,000 degrees at 2 hours, and even then, it doesn't turn the bones to ash.
Yeah, that's a big ask.
So I did have, so there's some another little piece of evidence that I did have. They were saying that it was an electrical fire, right? Which if there was electrical fire, that would indicate an electrical malfunction. And they did say that not only did the Christmas lights stay on until well into the fire, meaning that they had electricity, but also that they would not have been able to escape. They said they wouldn't have been able to escape the house if the electrical was actually out. Like if he had, if the thief had cut the electrical line instead of the phone line, Jenny said that they wouldn't have escaped the house. They wouldn't have been able to see their way out. They wouldn't have gotten out from the fire, and that they would have likely died if he was successful in doing that. So in two different ways, she indicates that the power was still working fine.
They must have turned the lights back on to run,
right?
Which would make sense,
right? And I do think it's interesting that so we know the phone was working at 12:30.
Yep.
And then by 1 o'clock, so between 12:30 and 1 o'clock, this thief comes up, cuts the line, steals the shit. The house catches on fire. So he's there at the exact time that the fire is going on. You know what I mean? Like if he cut the...
And he's also robbing this house that still has lights on in the living room.
So it just, that's fucking baffling to me too, because he would have been there at, like, if he missed the people that did this fire, he missed them by minutes. I can't believe just letting this guy go. Like, I'm not like a very smart dude, and I can figure out that he had to have been there at the time. Like there was a phone call at 12:30, which means the phone line worked. The house was on fire at freaking 1 o'clock. So in 30 minutes, the phone line was cut, the tackle was stolen, the ladder was moved, the house was lit on fire, and the kids were, in my opinion, removed from the house in some kind of way. A half hour isn't a lot of time to do all that stuff and to not see anything. You know what I mean?
Truth. Very true.
We got 3 votes for mafia arson as the top choice here.
Yep, 2 for the insurance guy, 1 for a natural issue. I did not vote in this. Honestly, I have no fucking idea. I have no idea. I got nothing more to say on the topic either. I have no idea. What other questions could we vote on if there's anything? Where are the kids? I guess
that's a good idea.
Yeah, good one. That's yeah.
So, if I had to pick, I really think that it would have been the freaking thief. He had to have had something to do with it. Like maybe there's something else there, right? In my opinion, there has to be something else there. He was there when it happened. He had to have seen something. Did they remember the name of the guy whom the caller was asking for? Me, the caller wanted to know if the arsonist there or not. They did. They just said that she didn't recognize the name. Which, if somebody asks me a name and I don't remember it, unless it's a really remarkable name, I probably wouldn't remember it either.
So what do we have? We have burned to ash, Italian kidnapping. I guess just general kidnapping. I guess they could have been distributed to New York, like the father might have thought. How about ransom gone wrong?
I mean, they could have ran away. Maybe the kids started the fire and ran away.
Run away, absolutely. They took a peek at their presents. They said, "This sucks. I was expecting a better Christmas," and I say we get the fuck out of here.
Well, like, all right, if the kids were are we all in agreement that the kids didn't die in the fire? Like,
I am, yeah.
There's
no way.
Exactly. They couldn't have died in that fire, which means that they were out somewhere else. So if the kids, so there's a possibility that the kids ran away. Maybe their home life sucked. Like maybe everything wasn't as good as it seemed. I know Dad was doing pretty well money wise. Maybe the kids just got the fuck out. It's a crazy time in the country. It's possible the kids just dipped, lit the house on fire. Maybe their parents were, this is a horrible thing to say if it's wrong, but there is also always the possibility that the parents were abusive and the kids got out and said, fuck this, and burned the place down on their way out, and maybe held some resentment towards the older siblings because they never did anything to protect them. I mean, there's...
who was the oldest to go missing? Was it 14?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been, I think that was Lewis. So... I mean, it's just weird. And then where's that photo come from, though?
Yeah.
Like, let's see what the poll says before I keep rambling on about it.
Yeah, that'll be the next one.
So we got a poll at the top of the chat, guys, on what you think happened here. We got 2 votes right now for Italian kidnapping. I'm surprised that you were able to say the word Italian even in Twitch's poll thing, because maybe that could be used in some derogatory way, just calling out some sort somebody's cultural background or whatever, because Twitch is so strict with their freaking polls. Your guess is the father was being extorted by the mafia. Kids were taken and sold off, some back to Italy, others wherever. Could be. So you think that the father was being extorted and leaned on over his trucking company? Maybe he wasn't willing to do things that they wanted to do. Maybe he was taking bids that their guys were getting. Possibility. It's a possibility. So we got 1 for runaway, 1 for ransom gone wrong. Curious what you all think here. Let me scroll back up through the chat and see if there's anything I missed. Let me find my thing here.
Hemp says, I think he was working with them and things started to get out of hand, get dangerous, and so he wanted out.
Could be.
That's possible.
Wolf wishes I danced more. That's good to know. Let's see. No, I don't think so. I think I got everything from the chat.
Cool.
It could be. There's a lot of possibilities on that. It's just nuts, man. It's how... in this day and age, you can't imagine, it does happen, but it's hard to imagine that somebody's able to just vanish and disappear, especially 4 kids like that. Somebody would find out. I'm going to
throw one more up about what was the photo. Was it a prank?
Yeah. Was it even
the
Lewis?
boy? Yeah. Lewis writing home? Or some sort of, I guess, the mafia sending a message of some sort, I guess.
I just don't know what
what
it means. Lewis Sodder, I love brother Frankie.
And is there a Frankie?
That's a good question.
No.
Who is Frankie Sodder? Yeah, I mean, Jenny Sodder had a brother named Frank Cipriani that lived there.
Okay.
So Jenny's brother was Frankie.
Huh.
I don't know. It's weird. Is the writing on the back of the photo from Lewis about Lewis to Jenny? Just random writing on the back of a photo that was stolen and sent to her. That's crazy.
Very odd. Very odd.
I mean, is it little boy or is it little boy 5? There's some weird shit. Some dude who wanted attention, could be Charlie. Maybe brother Frankie, like Father Thomas. Could be.
Yeah, I don't know. Very odd, regardless.
So you don't have a final opinion on what you think happened in this one?
I don't have a freaking clue. You know, I often like to wrap up these segments with my strongly formed opinions. I got nothing, man. I have no idea.
Yeah, I definitely think that the kids did escape the fire. I don't think that they burned up in the fire. I think that there's too many coincidences with the thief. Also, the fact that somebody said they saw, somebody throwing things at the roof, trying to light it on fire. Her hearing things up on there. The bomb or whatever that was found way later. They all are just too big of coincidences to just not have anything to do with anything.
That's what I was thinking too, Charlie. Maybe they could have been taken and then killed somewhere else.
It's possible.
Like a ransom gone wrong. I think that's what I was sort of getting at. It's possible. And to me, I do think it's unlikely that they're alive somewhere. I feel like they were all old enough that they would have attempted to come home. There would have been something, I really feel.
Yeah, you don't think they lived out their full life and then died? You think they died sometime earlier?
All 5 of them? Yeah, I don't think so.
If it was a ransom, though, why would you light the house on fire and then if you were trying to get money, you know?
That's a good question.
Because, like, you're going to kill them. Like, if there's a good chance you're going to kill the people you're trying to ransom money from.
That's a very good point, yeah.
It's fucking weird. It's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Photo. We got 2 votes for prank, then no votes for anything else on that one. I have no idea what the photo. It's just another weird one, but they look so much freaking alike.
They do. They really do. Although maybe that makes it more suspicious. Maybe they look too much alike, you know?
I look just like my baby photos. I could pull up a baby photo. I look the same. Same hair, same beard, same eyes. I look exactly the same as I did when I was like 5.
That's how they knew that you were the third.
That's right.
They said that, you know, that full head of hair is exactly what we're looking for.
Yep. Might have more money after they get it from insurance. Maybe. I think the older ones were taken out of the country. That way they couldn't remember or whatever. Well, even Sylvia. So this could just be like a false memory thing, which ties into our next story. But Sylvia says that the earliest memory she has is the night of the fire, which I think she was 2 at the time. But
it's probably implanted, would be my guess.
Because like I have a memory from when I was like 3 or 4 of cracking my head open by falling off a set of swings. But I don't know if I actually remember that or if I only remember it because my parents told me about it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Pete had a beard back then too. I've always had this. This is just my skin. You have a memory of when you were 2? Do you really though, or is it like an implanted memory? Like
right, like even our memories from 5 years ago, are they really real memories, or are they just us remembering having memories?
Right. There's a lot of things that it's hard to know. Humans are like unreliable witnesses, like notoriously unreliable. You broke your skull and almost bled out. See, why would you remember that? You got a bump on the head. Somebody told you about it.
Right, exactly, Biscuit. And even then, it could just be us imagining what that might have looked like and then saying that's our memory.
It's hard to believe that your memories might be I know I'm going on a tangent here, but it's hard to believe that your memories might be false, right? Because that means that everything that you know and believe and think about yourself and your past and your life up to this point could be sus, right? Like if you
Well
can't
said.
trust that your memory is accurate, then it can start opening up a whole bunch of questions that kind of fuck with you, you know? My mom wouldn't say, Wes, the couch you fell off was light purple. I don't know, man. I wasn't there. I was out getting milk at that time, Wes, so I didn't see
That's
it
right,
happen.
getting cigarettes, never returning home.
Anything else you want to add on to this story? Anything else?
I think, I think it's sad that the Sodder family has sort of fallen into obscurity, and it's sad that this is one of those cases that we're never going to get an answer on this.
Oh,
this
no.
This is it, man.
Anybody that knows what happened is dead, you know?
And I think it's very noble of the grandchildren to, attempt to carry the flag and figure something out. But I even went to SodderChildren.com, which was the website that they were, running. And it's apparently been bought out by some travel blog who talks about French cars or something. It was something like that. I don't know. I didn't read it because I was afraid my information was getting stolen.
Yeah, probably.
I think
IP
Haas
sniffer.
might have bought it out,
Oh,
but
man.
I don't know.
The Haas bots, yeah.
Nope.
Watch out for Haas. All my homies hate Haas.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Satanic daycare scandal.
Oh God, yeah. We could talk about that sometime.
What's that about?
That was like the Satanic Panic. A lot of implanted memories. The investigators influencing the children to give these horrible, descriptions of what was done to them when the physical evidence showed no, that didn't happen. Got a bunch of people locked up, like some kind daycare owners locked up. It was horrible.
Well, that does tie into our next story pretty well.
That's true. That's true.
Grace, Hoss is a bot that is driving any streamer and mod on Twitch absolutely fucking nuts. Especially the last couple days, it's been really bad. I'm surprised we haven't gotten one tonight. I had 4 or 5
They
yesterday.
say if you say them 3 times in a mirror,
yeah, it's like Candyman. I had 4 or 5 of them yesterday. They're IP sniffing bots, I guess, and they use an extension that is hooked onto Twitch. So if you click on the live stream on their page, an extension clicks into your browser information and gets your IP address. I guess you have to more than click on their page. You actually have to, the live stream has to be up in some kind of way. Yeah.
Interesting.
And there's a million of them. Hoss 001, 0013, 0____, whatever, they're fucking pain.
Yep. So, yeah. I'm just going to excuse myself for one moment. I thought that I was going to, get chills halfway through. I am sweating terribly. So I'm going to go get some water, and I'll be back in just a moment, and we can launch into the next case.
No problem. Take your time. I'll keep the chat warm for you. They meant to call themselves Hose, not Hoss. Dude, the Hoss bots are fucking nutty. They are nut. Yeah, throw up some cold water. Nick needs a cold shower, gang, right now. So the he got his shot, as he was talking about earlier, and it fucked with me pretty good, but I think I bailed on my stream altogether on the night after I got mine. So Nick is a trooper for sticking through this. Let's see. Giant Hoss robot comes to your house and eats your pets for checking out the. That's why it sniffs out your IP, Biscuit. Yeah, Grace, go ahead. Go take care of him. All right. So, what do y'all think? Anybody else have any opinions on this Sodder case before we move on to the next one? The next one we're going to do was a suggestion from, I believe, Blue for the Reykjavik Reykjavik Confessions. It's a fucking nutty story, and it's a lot different than the other stuff that we've done so far. So, Mother Iceland, yes. Dude, Iceland is a supposedly beautiful place where they have some fucked up cops. Let me make sure I spell this right. Reykjavik Confessions. So, while Nick's gone too, let me take a second just to throw up some plugs here. If you don't follow me on TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, go check that out. We also upload these VODs to YouTube afterwards. Give us a subscribe. I'm trying to get to 100 followers over there by the end of the year. We also have the TikTok going strong with totally original content. I'm about to start a new series over on TikTok and then obviously on Twitter. Nick is also on Twitter. He's on his own Twitch channel, which he streams at regularly. Has his own YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. So if you like Nick, I would highly suggest following him. Most of y'all know him anyway. Most of y'all were probably over from his channel. You're going to go backpacking there in the near future. Iceland? That sounds like it'd be freaking fun. What movie is that where they're like, where the girl's like, where she's talking about Iceland and she's like, no, Iceland is nice. Greenland has ice or whatever. Like, well, she's trying to seduce some dude. There's a movie where that happens. So I always remember Greenland is icy, Iceland is nicey. Fuck Iceland. I know someone from there, and I wish I didn't. Ooh. Who is it? Is it me? I have those. I was told by a dude who sent me dick pics that came into my chat that I had beautiful Icelandic eyes. Anything else I missed here? Iceland is nice, and Greenland is full of Mighty Ducks 2. Oh, is that what that movie's from? Is that from Mighty Ducks 2? That would be like me to quote Mighty Ducks 2. Yep, my bad. Thanks, Hemp. At least somebody remembered it. I knew I wasn't making it up. Definitely came from something. Fucking D2, The Mighty Ducks. Didn't they make like 8 of those movies? Also, if you haven't already, join up on the Discord. We have a channel there, I believe, that Biscuit made that is all for suggestions on this kind of stuff. Is there a channel, Biscuit? I think there's a channel. Maybe there isn't. Yes, there is. Okay. Biscuit made a channel there, so if you have any cases that you want us to check out and deep dive into, we would love your suggestions. We do this every Saturday night, and it is a blast. And look who's back.
That's right. I return.
We were just talking about Mighty Ducks 2.
Ah, good.
Yeah. I think they go to Iceland there. There's a girl in the movie that says, like, nah, Iceland is nice. Greenland has ice, or something like that. And I couldn't remember the movie. Apparently it's Mighty Ducks 2. So
neat. How you like that? See, that's one mystery solved at least.
we tied it all back in. Full
figured that out.
Fucking loop here. All right, let me change up the text on the screen. And now we are back to Reykjavik Confessions.
Yes.
Are you feeling all right?
Oh yeah, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm fine.
All right. I was gonna say if you needed some time,
No, I'm all right. I'm all right. Thank you.
All right. So, let me find my notes here. This one made me so mad.
Yeah, this one is like infuriating because we know what happened. Like, it's documented. We know exactly what happened, but not to the people who were victimized.
Right.
We know next to nothing about the people who were victimized, to such an extent that most of our information is going to be talking about the mistreatment of the suspects rather than the actual alleged death of the victim.
Right. And like I said before, this one was suggested by Blue. If you want to suggest a case, it's in the Discord. Message them, DM me or Nick, whatever you want to do.
Yes, indeed.
On any of the
Add
things.
us on Twitter.
Yep.
Anywhere.
I plugged all your socials while you were gone as well.
Thank you. I'm one follower away from 420 on Twitch. Just throwing that out there.
On Twitch?
Yeah, a little incentive.
Nice, man. Nick needs one more follower to get to 420. I can make an account real quick.
It's going to ruin the surprise, but I was throwing around the idea of creating an alt account called Haas Applesauce.
You should definitely do that. Hey, Danny, what's up? Party time. How are the Australian chickens doing? I guess that's all I got for you. How are the Australian chickens doing? I don't have any more jokes. That's it.
That's fair.
That's it.
That's fair. Mighty Ducks.
Yes, Mighty fucking Ducks. I think that's a great idea. I think Haas Applesauce is a great name for it. The names will be pretty interesting if everyone involved are from Iceland. Dude.
That is actually where I was going to start, Moby, is an apology to all of the people in this case. Holy fucking shit. 2 apologies. First off, I'm not going to be able to consistently pronounce this without tripping over my own tongue. Second off, yes indeed, Moby, I did write down all of their names in that form, the Leifson, the Bola daughter, or whatever it is, and then I found out that's not actually their surname, and that their middle names are their family names, and so I maybe should have been coding them in my notes as their family names instead of their last names, but you know what? Cultural mistake. Little, live and learn. Hey, Teddy, thank you.
Hey, thanks, Teddy, for that follow for Nick. Yeah, dude, I had to go in. I think I told you this. I went to Google and went into Google pronunciation and typed in each of their names and then just like phonetically like wrote down what they were, and hopefully I can do my best. Luckily, 2 of the guys have basically the same name, so
that's true. That's true.
420 on Twitter now. Hey.
Oh, that's the next step. We're charging towards it.
I'm like 100 and something on Twitter.
I think I have like 70.
I'm way far away from the.
That's all right. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
So, want to start with the. Yeah, here we go. Let's start on January 26th, 1974, the first of 2 victims that we will be talking about tonight.
Right. So,
yeah.
you can go ahead if you want.
Sure. So,
I like
our
you
story
giving
focuses-
you giving like the bulk of the story. I can throw on my quips and pick up the slack when needed.
Sounds
That
good.
works pretty
Sounds
well.
good. I also, if you need any pictures, I did have. Well, actually, the BBC article has a ton of great pictures. I think.
Yeah, do you want to just DM it to me?
Yeah,
Pete
sure.
just doesn't want to work. Biscuit, I have fucking 10 pages here written down of notes. So don't get on between the both of them. So don't get here. Look at all these pages. Look at all these pages. These are all my notes here. Don't give me no shit, Biscuit. I prepared. Don't want to do any work. I will
Making the sick man.
I will
do a tap dance
microwave your freaking biscuits and turn them hard and crusty and unedible so nobody will ever want them again. They will be
Yeah, you're gonna have to
useless.
change your name to Hockey Puck
That's
Magician.
right. You ever put a fucking biscuit in the microwave? You know what happens to a biscuit? It gets gross. You don't want me to put you in the microwave. I just read all monotone. What the fuck, man? Jesus Christ, ripping into my ass, Biscuit. Wow.
Grace, wow, you came back at a good time. The family unit is falling apart. We're at each other's throats. I enjoy a warm biscuit. Me too.
Yeah, but when you
Heat
put
it
it
up in the oven. That's what I do.
just don't put it in the microwave. Oh man. Okay. My bad. Did you where did you send it to me?
On both Discord and Skype.
Gotcha. Got it right here. Okay.
All right, so yeah. So what? Yeah, pictures. There we go. Okay, so a handsome man, 18 years old, quiet. He was described as. Then again, the other victim was also described as quiet. It's very possible that only quiet people go missing. It would make sense. No one can hear them. That's stupid. That's dumb.
I'm with it. I'm with the spirit of the joke.
So this guy, his name is Gudmundur, I think, Einarsson. My whole theory about Einarsson not being his last name, I don't know where that goes because that's all I know about the guy is Gudmundur Einarsson, you know? So
Right. That's the
I don't know
name
what
I
his
had
real
for
last
him,
name
too.
was. So maybe that was his last name. I guess if you weren't from Iceland, maybe you wouldn't.
Oh my
there they
god.
are. We jinxed it.
I got not just one. I got a few. I got Haas Zach. I got Haas Grooms. Oh my god.
That's amazing.
One of y'all want to ban those two accounts, por favor. We learned how to speak French on stream yesterday.
Oh, Jesus. All right, yeah, so Gudmundur Einarsson is out drinking with some friends. He's 18, a quiet laborer, known to like a good party. Then again, this is 1974. What teenager doesn't?
That's right.
There's a big party scene in Iceland, apparently, which actually has a population lower than Reno at this time. Reno, Nevada. Iceland, I believe, at the time had a population of about 220,000 people. And it's a big chunk of land. Anyone who's been to Iceland or heard of Iceland or anything like that, I only have heard stories of Iceland, through the eyes from my father. He stopped there on vacation briefly, and there's a whole lot of nothingness. It's a very open country.
Wait,
and,
your father's been to Iceland?
Yeah.
No, Teddy, that's not a troll. That's those are those Haas bots we were talking about before. I banned them. Thank you. Those are those fucking awful evil bots that are fucking stealing like people's IP addresses. Don't click on their names. Sorry. So your father's actually been to Iceland?
Yes.
What was he doing in Iceland? I can't think of any reason to go there.
He was actually killing this guy. So that solves that.
Great. Story fucking solved.
No, so it was actually layover, funnily enough. He was flying to Germany and had a connecting flight in Iceland where he stayed for a few days.
Okay.
Apparently it's got a hell of a scene. I don't know. There's saunas, there's music festivals, I think. Obviously not all year round, but
right.
There's things to do. But he said there's a whole lot of nothing and you really have to plan out where you're going because of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so like you said, the population of Iceland, which I don't know how big it is, but it was less than Reno, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so this does take place, by the way, in Reykjavik, which is the capital.
Right.
So Gudmundur Einarsson, there's a big hippie movement, a lot of drugs. I heard tell of psychedelics, a lot of boozing, a lot of alcohol. And Gudmundur here, he is no different. He's out with his friends, going through the absolutely popping off scene of Reykjavik, Iceland, drinking, having a good night, and he winds up at a community hall where he, I think, does some dancing and whatnot.
So Iceland is half the size of like Michigan, just in case anybody cared.
Yeah, so half the size of Michigan with the population of Reno.
Right.
At a certain point, he decides to leave, strangely enough. And at this point, I believe he is 6.2 miles away from his home.
Yep. Drunk.
He decides to leave the music hall, leave his friends, and walk home. I guess that's I guess that's not that far-fetched for Iceland. They're raised different there. They're built different.
I mean, people do Irish goodbyes all the time when they're drunk, right? You get fucking hammered, you just dip out. Like I'm
talking like 6.2 miles away in January in Iceland.
Yeah, I mean that's the distance is pretty rough.
That's pretty, miserable.
Mm-hmm.
He is spotted, or at least he's believed to be spotted, around 2 a.m. in the company of another man, and the two of them are described by a passing vehicle as visibly drunk and trying to hitchhike.
Right. So he obviously didn't make it very far on his trek back if he's hitchhiking. Right. Is there really?
Now that's not the only
volcanoes?
person to see him that night. There were two motorists actually.
Oh, I only had the one.
The second motorist is actually the one where he nearly fell in front of the vehicle.
Oh, I did have that actually. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first vehicle sees him and one other man trying to hitchhike. The second notices this guy. He falls, he stumbles in front of the vehicle, clearly drunk, the guy said, and not in the company of anyone else. So presumably whoever he was hitchhiking with might have been a stranger even. That guy got picked up. That guy is not seen by this last witness.
Right.
At this point, he's alone, and he is never seen again.
Last time he's ever seen.
He is spotted on that road by that final motorist, never seen again.
Which didn't his friends see him hitchhiking?
I believe so.
Why wouldn't they pick him up?
Maybe they wanted to continue to drink.
I guess
I don't know.
Makes sense.
If they're still drinking at the hall and then he leaves, I don't know.
Yeah, I read a couple of different articles on this and listened to a podcast on it, and and in one it said that they drove by, saw him hitchhiking, which I was like, how, if your friends see you drive by hitchhiking, why the fuck wouldn't they pick you up? Like,
yeah, I heard about the first car, but it didn't say anything about the friend. That's strange.
I've actually put a friend of mine in the trunk because we didn't have any room and driven his.
Maybe
ass
the trunk
home,
was occupied.
Maybe they already had a friend in the trunk. It could be.
It was a clown car. They said, sorry, Goodmunder, you're out of luck.
Yeah.
We're full up. All the seats, everyone's lap, and the trunk are completely full.
That's possible.
I don't know. Regardless, this 18-year-old is never seen again.
Ever. No body
There is
found.
a search.
Nothing.
Yeah, body is never going to be found in this case, by the way.
Yeah.
Nobody... All right, let me say this. Everything we just told you is all the evidence there is. That's it. That's the case. You're a detective. You hear what we just told you. That's the case.
Right.
It's also worth mentioning that Iceland, being such a small population, does not have a lot of instances of foul play at all.
Right.
Maybe one a year is what I heard. Maybe one a year. However, getting lost, that happens a lot. There's quite a few disappearances.
Hey, Blue, what's up? He's tossed into a volcano as a sacrifice, yeah. So, yeah, Iceland is definitely known for having people just wander off and disappear and die in the freaking snow. Like,
I love how people say, he probably fell into a volcano. Yeah. Like, he's on the road. There's a foot of snow, presumably, on the ground. I don't know if he often wanders. If you say, I'm going to take a shortcut through, through Mount Doom in order to get home.
Does it stay snowy in Iceland all year round, or do they have like a spring and summer?
I think they probably have a proper summer. I don't know.
Like maybe in Reykjavik or whatever, like where I know, because like you can have cities that are higher elevations that never.
Yeah,
thaw,
it is January though. To be fair here too.
I'm just thinking, like, if it never thaws there, like that could explain why a body is never found. He could just be in a snowbank somewhere.
Definitely, and I don't know like what type of wildlife and whatnot is located.
Right.
So yeah, there is a search that's conducted. Unfortunately, Iceland, like I said, is so small that the government, the police force, does not actually have a division dedicated to missing people. They don't even have a body for that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, there's no evidence of a crime here at this point. You just have a dude who's gone missing at this moment, but.
So what they do is they Actually, Moby, you know what? That is something I was going to bring up later. Let's talk about elves. It's not about aliens, it's about elves. People go missing so often in Iceland that it's part of their folklore, like to this day.
Yeah. That. I don't want to say what I was going to say actually.
But you know, it does happen.
Maybe I will.
You see, the first case we had Santa. Now we have the elves.
So like there's two disappearances that are involved in this case, and
Yes.
even these two have been like brought like have there's like folklore now that surrounds their disappearances.
They've been elevated
Yeah.
to these mythological figures.
Yep.
So yeah, he's never seen again. There's a search for a few weeks. Unfortunately, the snow is so bad they can't really get anywhere with it, and so a few weeks go by and they sort of call it closed and say, oh well, I guess he's gone.
Right.
They keep it open, I think, just like they always do, but they're pretty much done searching for this guy. He was not found. Presumably, he wandered off, never to be seen again for some reason. All right. So then, from what I heard, it was sort of phrased to me, yes, indeed, Blue, yes, indeed. Now, it seems to me that if Gudmundur was the last to disappear that year, I'm thinking it might not have been too big a deal, and what happened next would not have happened. But instead, a second man goes missing 10 months later.
Right.
Okay.
There he is.
Apparently, Iceland doesn't go too far below freezing.
Oh.
So that's not too bad.
So I guess that makes sense with the Mighty Ducks line where they said Iceland is nice and Greenland has ice or whatever.
So we have a man by the name of Geirfinnur Einarsson. Same surname, no relation. Maybe not even a surname from what I found out recently. But regardless, Geirfinnur, on November 19th, 1974, is a 32-year-old family man, construction worker. Apparently he has a small circle of friends. He spends time with his daughters. That's pretty much all there is to him. Also described as quiet, interestingly enough. Again, I'm just saying, it's a little strange.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So this dude is like 5 years younger than me. He looks way older than me to me. Do you think that we look the same age?
Let's see.
I don't feel like I look as old as this guy. He's 5 years younger than me. He looks like an adult, Pete. Yeah, but do I look like an adult?
There you go. Who looks older?
He looks older, right? Okay, good. I just wanted to make
We'll see
sure. I want to make sure I
we'll
don't
see
look
what
as
the,
old as this guy does. My own
There's a poll
mortality
at the top
fucking
of the
with
chat,
me.
everyone. Make sure to get your voices heard.
Oh shit! Gonna get roasted in the poll.
It's the hairstyle and the fashion. Pete, you should cosplay this guy.
Nicholas's Cage, more like Nicholas's Sparks. I don't get the joke, Lil She, but how you doing? Welcome into the stream.
There's a lot of Nicholases.
Yes. Okay. Sorry to derail you, man. You know.
No, that's
you know
all right.
how I
That's
am.
all right.
When I see somebody that's like 5 years younger than me, and to me looks like he could be my dad, like I gotta ask, you know.
That's pretty funny, to be honest. So he's watching TV with a friend of his at home. Apparently, he and his friend have a brief conversation and then leave for the Harbor Cafe in Keflavik. Geirfinnur soon returns home, where his wife overhears a phone call he gets.
Right.
And she overhears him saying something about,
I've already come.
And then listening and going, I'll come.
Right.
He then, and please, guys, get your minds out of the gutter. The man's potentially dead.
Right.
He then drove back into town. He parked close to the cafe, leaving his keys in the ignition. He steps out of his car, again, keys in the ignition, and he is never seen again.
Did it say when anything that you found that the car was left running or not? I just read that the keys were in the ignition, but not that the car was running.
I think probably turned off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That would be my guess. So, yeah, that's it. Again, hope you guys were satisfied with those mysteries. That's all the evidence we have.
Literally, there's like a little bit more. There's a tiny bit more evidence other than that. But like, really, that's the meat and potatoes of this whole case. One guy goes missing after a night of drinking, and then 10 months later, another guy with the same last name. I wonder if Einerson, I didn't think of this till now. I wonder if Einerson is like equivalent to like Smith in America or like Wong in China, you know, where like,
yeah, I don't know.
It's always there. Let's see.
So a search is conducted along the coast,
Good point,
along
Danny.
the area, and much like the last one, this guy is never found. There's no trace of him ever found. However, police do get a little bit investigative with this.
Right.
They say it's pretty suspicious that, you know, the guy received a phone call and he was meeting with someone and then he goes missing. We should probably find out who called him and who he was meeting with. Fair. That's fair. So what they do is they talk to a few people and they find 2 teenagers as well as an employee of the cafe who all come together to describe that they saw a man placing a call in a payphone.
Just a quick interruption on this. I just Googled it. Einerson is the 4th most common last name in Iceland. So it's not that crazy that 2 men with the same last name went missing.
Right.
I know it's got little bearing on the actual case here, but I was just kind of curious on that.
So,
sorry.
Yeah, so they try to get a composite of this guy, right? Of the mystery phone booth man. And they do. And they don't actually, like, sketch out anything like we're known to, like a police sketch. They actually mold it out of clay.
Right.
To make, like, a bust of the suspect, which is kind of interesting and also kind of fucking ridiculous to me at the same time.
Like, you have to carry this bust around, like, from house to house while you're knocking on doors. Oh, man.
Right. So, you know, let me just scroll down here. There's also some rumors that Geirfinnur is partaking in illegal alcohol smuggling. However, that's really only a rumor. There's no proof of that. And police searched through his books, you know, his bank activity. They talked with his wife, and nobody outside of a street level, like, I don't even know where that rumor got started, but word on the street was that this guy smuggled alcohol. The police tried to find that, couldn't, you know, so that's sort of where we're at. So they take this bust, really the only lead they have, this clay recreation of the suspect, and they start showing it around town, which of course is small, and nobody recognizes the man really. Police then conclude, they don't say anything along the lines of, well, maybe our bust sucks, and that's why they can't recognize it. They say, okay, no one recognized this clay figure. The guy must be from out of town.
Right.
The suspect must be not around here, because obviously we perfectly recreated this human being. No one recognizes him.
Yes, Grace. Einerson is like the Icelandic Smith. Yes.
So, I also wrote down here that a manager of a nearby nightclub is questioned, but he's released.
He's not just questioned. He's like straight up arrested. And like,
oh, is he fully arrested?
He's like one of like a couple of misfires that they get on this case.
Yeah, the police have very interesting tactics in this era of Iceland, as we'll get into. But what happens is that the year sort of comes and goes. 1974 ends, 1975 rolls around, and the summer comes. And the police are essentially left without any witnesses and without any bodies, and they're really searching for leads. There then, however, is a bit of a rumor going around about one guy's name in particular that's popping up who's known to police. One Saivar Sisielski?
Right.
Something like that. I believe a Polish name, which to the police made him stick out. And he was a petty criminal known for stealing liquor, stealing candles, strangely enough, stealing checkbooks. But he was a petty criminal. I would still classify him.
He was like a drug dealer, petty thief.
Yep.
He ran some small scams, and he lived with his girlfriend, Erla
Boladaughter.
And they were, at the time, embezzling money and writing bad checks involving the company that she worked for, a telecommunications company. Right.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, yeah, we have, you know, this guy who gets mentioned to the police. The police, I guess, start to look into it. But to sort of rewind real fast to who these two were, Sisielski and Boladaughter, they're a couple, obviously, a young couple. And according to her later on, this guy kind of sounds like a douche, in my humble opinion. He Not only is he a petty thief, he often brags to her about how he wants to commit the perfect crime.
Right.
Those are his words.
I mean, they look like hippies. Here's their photos up here,
Yeah.
right? Like, so when I was reading this, I didn't have their photos. This is not what I expected him to look like. I guess she kind of looks
not
like
at
I
all.
thought. She looks like an Erla to me, but like he doesn't look exactly like I thought he would look. So
Right. So, they sort of take an instant alert to these two. These two, like you said, were embezzling money, and they actually embezzled enough money to buy one-way tickets to Copenhagen in Denmark, and they fled Iceland and lived in Copenhagen for a short period of time. Then Bolladottir became pregnant with Sisielski's kid, and the two of them decided to move back to Reykjavik so that she could give birth in September of 1975.
yep. Little she thinks that it looks like you. I don't see the resemblance.
He looks like Nick? Are you kidding me? Shameful.
Nick's
So-
way more handsome.
Thank you. So, yes, they move back, and it's in December of 1975 that the police sort of crack down on the both of them for the embezzlement that they were doing at her job. They're like, okay, these two, it's Viking Nick. This guy's not even a Viking. He's Polish.
I'm part Polish.
Isn't Nick already Viking Nick?
Pirate.
Maybe. I don't know.
He also did he. So when I was going in on this, I found a little detail that didn't seem to go anywhere. That when he got her pregnant, he decided that he was going to he's like, it's time to provide. I'm going to take care of my lady, and decides he's going to start smuggling weed. And
Yeah, that's his grand plan. And at this point, I think she says we shouldn't live together.
Right. So that's why they end up splitting, is because she's like, if you're going to freaking be a drug dealer, then we're not living together anymore. So they do break up.
Right. So, they start living apart. Regardless, December 12th, they sort of crack down. They arrest Sisielski for the embezzlement that he's been partaking in. 2 days later, they arrest Bolladottir as well. And they sort of deny. And the Icelandic police at the time, they had a very interesting way of interrogating, of detaining, of, treating the rights of their civilians. What I'm dancing around is they threw them in solitary confinement and locked the door. And just sort of forgot about them, presumably, for a few days, only letting them out to grill them for hours at a time, sometimes 10 hours at a time, without a lawyer present.
Yeah, which is, dude, I've read, so I've always been interested in police violating their rights, overstepping their bounds and all that, especially the time that we live in now. There's so much crazy shit going on with the cops, and the amount of times and the amount of success that they get when it comes to solitary confinement and extraction confessions. It's we know it doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work. If you put somebody in jail and lock them up and put them away for long enough and torture them and grill them and all of that over and over and over again, eventually they're going to just tell you whatever you want to hear. You break them down,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be like, yes, you were right. I can't take this anymore. I just want to get the fuck out. Yes, I killed them. I did everything. I'm the criminal. Hey Z, what's up? How's it going? Sorry.
Now, you're absolutely correct. And normally, let's say there is a coerced confession. Let's say the police do some dirty work. Normally what they'll do is they will make sure that the information that you're confessing to matches the details we know about the crime, which we withhold from the press, so that they are details only the true criminal would know. And that's how we sort of confess to this. What did you kill her with? He says a hammer. He's in solitary confinement. He still says a hammer. It wasn't a fucking hammer. We know,
Right.
This guy's not the guy. Unfortunately, there's absolutely no evidence. There's no bodies. There's no witnesses. There's no nothing. So you're locking these two up. But for right now, for embezzlement.
Right.
So she's got an 11-week old child at home.
Mm-hmm.
They're holding her in solitary. And eventually she does crack and say, fine, yes, I admit to it. I embezzled the money. And they go, good. I'm glad that you finally admitted to that.
Hey, good night, Wes.
Hey, night, Wes. Right? So, you admitted to that. That's very good. Say, out of curiosity before you go, do you recognize this man? And they show a picture of Gudmundur, the 18-year-old, the first victim. First disappearance. Right? And, she does actually recognize him. She goes, oh, yeah, I do know that guy. I think she even remembered originally, like, hearing of him going missing.
She had a few memories with this guy.
And she was like, yeah, I saw this dude at a party once. I remember that.
They shared a car together.
I shared a car with him once.
Yep.
So, yeah, I recognize that guy. And the police go, okay, interesting. What do you remember from the night that he disappeared? And she says she vaguely remembered the night that he disappeared, and that she was at a nightclub without Sisielski, actually, who she believed was in Denmark overseas at the time. And she arrived home that night and fell asleep, but she does mention to investigators something weird did happen that night. She had a weird dream in which she heard Sisielski's voice outside her window.
Right, her boyfriend's voice. Like I made sure to like write little bits because their names aren't common to me, so it's hard to like keep track who we're talking about. So she hears him whispering outside of her window in her nightmare, and the police are jump all over this, like hungry for any kind of lead. They're like, "What the fuck? Like this is the most progress we made in months."
Exactly. So they say, I wonder, is it possible you're not dreaming? We should probably lock her back in solitary confinement. And so they do. During this time, she says that she began to doubt her own memories. She really just wanted to go home. The head investigators are doing this cute little thing where they're trying to be your friend. They're trying to say, look, we just want to help you. We want to help you remember what happened. That's all we want to do. We want to jog your memory so you can tell us what happened that night. Very good investigative work. So, in fact, I wrote down a quote, that's right, from the head investigator who told her, we are going to help you recall everything. You will not be able to leave here until you tell us what happened to Gudmundur Einarsson. Completely. I mean, I don't know if it's illegal. Clearly it's not. Iceland, 2 thumbs up on this at the time. But Jesus Christ, man, that's a whole lot of problems. Furthermore, I'll tell all of you, never speak to police, ever. Never, ever. Get a fucking lawyer, and if you're not being detained, leave.
Right. If you can leave, you should leave, and definitely speak with a lawyer. Don't talk to the cops. I've been arrested a couple of times, and both times that I made sure to keep my fucking mouth shut. And they were just asking me like simple ass questions, just like little things, but they're just trying to get you to develop a timeline so that way they can use it later against you to prove all sorts of other stuff. So you're better off not giving anything up. Don't say that you were just going to grab a pack of smokes.
Grace says you can't trust nightmares. That's absolutely correct, and the police know that, which is why the police tell her, do you think it's possible it could have not been a nightmare and it's an actual memory of you waking up in the middle of the night? And no offense, chick, but like a fucking dumbass, she goes, yeah, I guess that's possible, and that's all they need. Oh, it is possible. All right, let's lock you up until you remember, you know? So that's great.
Biscuit, to ban someone if you don't stream, go to your chat and type in /ban and then @ and their name and hit enter, and you can ban them. Yeah, she says maybe you're right. Maybe I wasn't a nightmare. Maybe I am not remembering all this stuff. Like she's just like, come on, girl, come on. What are you doing? What are you doing, Erla?
Well, she also notes that her bed sheet was missing. Strangely enough.
Yeah, that part's pretty weird.
That's actually the only bit of evidence we're ever going to get, by the way. Her bedsheet was missing, I guess.
Yeah.
Then again, did the police just take her bedsheet and throw it in the ocean in a volcano? They can't find these guys. How the fuck would they find a bedsheet?
Bedsheets in the volcano confirmed.
You know? But her bedsheet's missing. And so, you know, she's being interrogated for long periods of time without a lawyer present, and every time the interrogation ends and the police don't get the conclusion they want, they throw her back in solitary. And throughout this, you know, she just wants to return to her baby. Finally, she breaks after one 10-hour-long interrogation. The police prepare a statement for her, which she signs, that states she had witnessed Sisielski and 3 of his friends with the body of Gudmundur Einarsson wrapped in a bedsheet, which she figured must have been hers because hers was missing.
Right.
Now, she signs this. They say, great, that's awesome. Think of how long this process has been going on with her. Days, weeks, right? The entire time Sisielski has been in solitary confinement himself.
Right. Also being
finally,
interrogated and grilled and tortured and everything else.
Well, finally, they get him. They get him. They get him into the interrogation room, and they smack on the table the confession of his girlfriend that said she says that you and 3 of your friends killed this guy and disposed of his body. How do you like that?
Right.
At which point, he gives in, and he says, you know what, yes, I'll incriminate myself and my friends. And he brings up 3 of his close friends, Christian Vidar Vidarsson. Apparently he was also identified by Boladaughter in her original confession.
Yeah, Erla named him as well. Yeah.
Sisielski also identifies Trygve Runar Leifson and Albert Klon Skaftason.
You're doing good on those pronunciations, man.
I'm trying. Yo, Ari, welcome in. Good to see you.
Hey, Ari, what's good? How you doing? Dude, it's crazy. Like you're turning their brains into pudding at this point. Just like locking them up, like sleep deprivation, constant grilling, torturing. They just want to leave, and you're just like, just sign this. Just sign this. And they probably didn't even no, you don't even need it. Just sign this paper, and you are free to go. Like
100%, 100%. And a lot of times they'll trick you. The police say, if you cooperate, I can speak with the judge and get your sentence reduced.
Right.
No, you can't. That's not something police can do. They have no power in that.
No.
That's just some lie they fucking tell to get idiots to fucking confess to shit. You sign this paper admitting you murdered a guy, and we'll just give you a slap on the wrist, and, you can go on your way. Oh, really? Okay. But then again, you're being held in solitary until you give up.
Right.
So maybe I would sign it too. Get it over with. I'll do my prison stint.
Yeah,
sure.
At that point, it's like, let's just get my ass to jail. I just want to go. But listen, if you're guilty of a crime, I'm not trying to tell you to commit a crime, but if you're guilty of a crime,
no biscuit.
deny.
I'm not talking about these people specifically. I'm talking about police talking to people in general.
Yeah. If you're guilty, just deny. Get a fucking lawyer.
And if you're innocent, deny.
Yeah.
So, what we have here is the police go out and they round up these 3 men that have been named by Sisielski now. They get Vidar Vidarsson, they get Runar Leifson, and they get Klon Skaftason. And they put all of them in solitary confinement. And they start grilling them over the course of weeks. Now, for background, Vidarsson and Leifson were petty criminals as well. Skaftason rolled with them, but he only was picked up by police once on a weed possession, so he's not quite the delinquent that the others were. But regardless, his name is brought up by Sisielski. So the investigators start to talk to these guys, and they say, look, we're going to keep you in solitary as long as it takes for you to tell the truth.
Right.
It could be years, literal years, we will keep you here until you admit to what you totally did.
I mean, that's actually on the table. Years in solitary is actually on the table in this situation.
Like, there's the whole thing about unless you're arrested in the U.S., they have to let you go within 24 hours. They can't hold you longer than that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Apparently over here, it's free range, man. You can go as crazy as you fucking want.
Innocent until proven is definitely an American thing. I don't know the Icelandic judicial system at all. So
I know it's an ideal, but I don't know if Iceland is really up to snuff. Like I said, they don't even have a missing persons unit.
I mean, we don't even do that here. Like, yeah, like on paper, you're innocent until proven guilty, but realistically, you're not. Like, you can be accused of something and have bail denied and spend time in jail until and charges haven't even been brought on you. You haven't even been arraigned yet. You haven't even been brought to court, and you're already in jail, being treated the same as you would if you were a prisoner. So is the innocent until proven guilty thing? I mean, it doesn't actually exist.
Right. But it is an ideal that at least is attempted to be reached for.
Right.
It's at least said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they say it over here. So what happens is Vidarsson and Leifson both eventually confess to the murder, and they say it was a fight over a bottle of liquor. That's what it was. It was a fight over liquor, and we killed him. Fine.
Biscuit.
You got us. Skaftason does not confess to the murder. However, he does say, look, I didn't kill the guy, but yes, I did help transport his body and dispose of it. And it's somewhere deep within the volcanoes in some sort of crack. It's in a crevice out there, a ravine. We tossed him into it, never to be seen again.
Wait, you actually found them saying that they put it in a volcano? Or
No,
are we
no.
memeing? All right.
into the cracks.
Oh, okay.
Like there's really like lava fields.
Yeah, that's true.
And cracks that form. But, so he's put around a volcano, I guess, not into it though.
Hey, Rip, welcome back.
So, this is great. The police pat themselves on the back. They say, another great job done. Wonderful police work.
Well, they also, like, when they were doing all of this, their stories were wildly different. Like, they were saying
Yes.
that the murder happened on a boat. They're saying it happened on land. They said it happened inside. They said it happened
that's the next
outside.
guy.
What's that?
The next guy was the one with all the different versions.
Okay.
With this guy, I sort of have sort of what they walked through with the different ones, but I'm pretty sure that with the first guy, whose name I'm already forget because I'm not looking at.
Christian?
Gudmundur.
Oh, Gudmundur, yep.
I'm pretty sure that they just sort of say he was choked out or something like that, and they all sort of killed him together, and it was a ringleader thing, and he gets tossed,
Yes.
What happens then is Bolladottir is sort of worried that, shit, I just implicated my boyfriend and his 3 friends, all 4 of whom are kind of criminals, kind of delinquents. I just implicated all of them in a crime, in a murder.
Hey, Heather,
There might be some sort of reprisal. And the police seem to prey on that and seem to befriend her more and say, hey, look, we'll drive you home. We'll help you move your shit, And if you ever need, anything, just give us a call and all this. Very nice.
Right, she's treated as a witness at this point, right? She isn't.
Exactly.
She isn't being treated as a criminal. They are her best friend as far as they can at this point. I didn't scroll through the other guys' pictures. My bad.
And then one day, what she describes as out of the blue, the police say to her, hey, by chance, do you think it's possible that Sisielski might have known anything about the second disappearance that year, Gerfiner? And she gives the same great answer, maybe.
Yeah.
Once again, the police are salivating. They're like, fuck yeah, dude. We got her again. Same trick works twice. Gotta love it. So they bring her in as... Well, what they tell her, they say, again, we have a reason to believe, this is a quote, we have a reason to believe that you have experienced something traumatic concerning Gerfiner's disappearance, and we are going to help you remember. Okay, so you saw something that you're repressing due to trauma, and we're going to help extract that.
Yeah.
Beautiful way to put it. I really love that. Somehow these guys end up being like even more ominous than the guys at the end of 1984. Like these guys are more caricatures of villains. I swear to Christ, it's the most ridiculous fucking thing. And so they bring her in. What I have here, they bring her in, and I believe they bring her in as a witness on this one.
Right.
And even though she's not actually being arrested, she's not even really being detained. She's just being brought to the station to be a witness. They put her in solitary again.
Yeah, they make her spend the night in solitary confinement at this point.
And they leave her overnight. She's not even like a suspect. She's a witness at this point. So that's just baffling to me. Eventually, the police question Bolladottir, Sisielski, and Widersen all about Gerfiner's disappearance now, and in the same way extract confessions from all of them. And this is where I wrote down the note that their details are all over the place. At first the murder was on a boat, and it was an accident, he fell overboard. But then it was on a boat, but it was malicious, and they attacked him and they killed him and they threw him overboard. But then it wasn't actually on a boat, it was on dry land, and there was no sort of disposal in the ocean. It makes no sense. Their stories are all over the place. But they do give a confession to the police at the time, which is it happened in a boat. And the police take that and put it aside and use that confession, although the confession will then change once it gets to court to he was killed on land.
Right, and the police help to kind of steer them all into the same direction as well, like by putting them in and out of solitary, depriving them of sleep and all of that, and then kind of giving them a suggestion on what actually happened. Is like if they say no, it happened with, let's say, a hammer, and they're like, "Are you sure it was a hammer? Are you sure it wasn't a gun? I think you might be misremembering this one. It might have been actually a gun."
In fact, you just jogged my memory.
Yeah.
Where Bolladottir at one point actually admitted to shooting
Right.
Gerfiner, and that was never mentioned again.
Yeah.
that was considered to be nonsense by police.
There's no proof that anybody was shot. I mean, there's no proof that anybody was even fucking killed.
There was no gun that was found, nothing. So what they do is they are interrogating all of them, and what happens, unfortunately, is that during questioning, one of the many interrogations, Viderson mentions a, quote, foreign-looking man who helped us kill the second guy, Geirfinnur.
Yeah.
The police then go, aha, that's our foreigner. Let's look for the guy. And they sort of trace it back to this guy named Guðjón Skarphedinsson, who is a 32-year-old former teacher of Sisielski's, who apparently allowed Sisielski to borrow his car to do drug smuggling. So this teacher was kind of also a petty criminal, you know?
I wonder if there's so much crime in this part of Iceland because of boredom or if it's just that kind of area. But it seems everybody in this story is involved in some sort of crime.
In petty crime of some sort. So they find this guy and they bring him in. And I guess from what I heard, the gist of it was that this guy is like a concerned citizen, where he's like, oh yeah, I've heard all about these cases. Oh, I would love to help solve these cases. I would love to help bring peace to these families. And so what do? They lock him in solitary confinement and start grilling him. You know? That's great.
17 days of solitary on this guy for him to crack.
Yes. Initially, he claims to have no memory of the night, which makes sense. It was 2 years ago at this point.
Right.
To paint how long this process is going on. 17 days later, he changes his mind, and he's like, no, yeah, I guess I did do something like this. 1976, I think, at this point.
Yeah, we're in 1976, yeah.
So, you know, he finally confesses, and that's wonderful. And they get all of their confessions, and they go to court with those confessions. And those confessions are actually, again, the only pieces of evidence, aside from the missing bedsheet, I guess, with the first guy.
Yeah, which, I mean, is hardly evidence at all, but...
Right. And furthermore, those confessions, 3 of them are retracted for the court. So the 3 of the 6 defendants, are now saying in court, that was bullshit, that was coerced. We don't agree with those confessions anymore.
It's the original 3, right? Isn't it Erla, Sivar, and Christian that all eventually
probably, yeah,
recount their confessions? That's what actually.
And all 6, despite this, are found guilty.
Right.
Guilty of. I didn't see who was found guilty of what, but Sisielski was given a life sentence. The other 5 were given sentences ranging from 3 to 12 years. Which personally, I mean, hey, kill a guy. Kill 2 guys.
Yeah.
3 years, 5 years. I would actually rather. I would have been like, dude, what was the 2 years of solitary for? Fucking offer me 3 years. If you told me 2 years in solitary or I get out of prison in 5 fucking years, you would have gotten your confession right there, dude.
Seriously.
You know? But it was horrible. So, that's, you know, it's awful. Well, you know, it gets worse because I've sort of been glossing over the extent. I saved, you know, my notes on this. I now have a section of my notes called Brutal Tactics, and this sort of goes into what these guys and gal were subjected to.
Yeah, Dan, it's definitely there's some fucked up shit that they end up pulling on these guys.
Now, I find varying numbers on how long each was held in solitary totally.
Well, let's compare some numbers here.
Yeah, because I saw that they were confined for a certain number of days, but not necessarily solitary confinement.
So the only person whose confinement and solitary number I have are Savar's. I have both of his things on how long he was confined before trial, and his solitary, because I have that he spent 741 days in solitary confinement and a total of 1,533 days in total confinement, counting the solitary before his trial.
Yep. That's what I have too. Viderson, I found over 600, close to 700 days.
Yep.
Leifson, I saw over 600 as well.
Yep.
Guðjón Skarphedinsson spent over 400 days. Erla Boladóttir spent over 200 days. And Albert Klon Skaftisson spent only a total of about 88 days in solitary. And that's pathetic. When I say, man, that guy got off easy, he only had to spend 3 months in solitary confinement.
Right, not 2 fucking years. Dude, so I was reading, too, that some of these are the only known like cases of holding somebody in solitary confinement outside of Guantanamo Bay.
Yep.
Like, it's that level of fucking crazy. Like, they don't even do this in, like, Korea. They don't hold you in solitary like this in Korea. Like,
it's brutal. It's inhumane, is what it is, and it would be bad enough if you were just locked in a box.
interesting
now, a
you
lot
say
of these
that, Rip
people-
City.
See, now Rip is thinking like an interrogator. Yeah, I think all of us would have confessed.
Right.
Like, at a certain point, it becomes comical. It's like, really? Now, what gets through a lot of these people through the time, even remotely sane, is the ability to journal, and they keep diaries. But I found some sort of implications that the diaries weren't actually allowed and were being smuggled into them by, like, sympathetic priests and shit like that.
Really? I know
So,
that
like,
one
they
of-
weren't even allowed to keep a journal of their thoughts. It was contraband. And contraband when you're not arrested. You're not being charged with anything yet. You're just being detained and questioned for a crime.
Yeah.
And that's insane.
So like these solitary too, like it can literally be just you on a hardwood bed with
Think
your
of White
clothes.
Room I saw.
Like they don't even necessarily give you blankets or pillows all the time. Like you can just be in there with like you have a bathroom, you're getting enough food and water to keep you alive, and you have nothing. Like you fucking play with your fingernail clippings or something like that. That's it. You got nothing. Weaving little hair fucking mittens from your body hair. There's nothing to do.
I think I would have just started furiously masturbating. I would have come all over the cell. That's a lot of semen in 741 days.
Seriously. It's a lot
You
of
know?
nut.
Turn it back on him somehow. But mark your territory.
Yeah.
But, it wouldn't even be... And again, it's hysterical that I'm saying, 741 days in solitary wouldn't even be that bad if not for the fact that, well, first off, their only, contact with people is the interrogators.
Right.
Who bring them out without a lawyer or with limited contact to lawyer and grill them for hours, 10 hours at a time, acting like you're my friend, saying, look, man, we know what you did. You don't know what you did.
Rip.
I wrote down that the suspects were interrogated well over 100 times.
Yep.
And were at times actually prohibited from sleeping. The only thing you can do in solitary confinement
Is
that wouldn't drive you mad is escape to sleep, and they were actually forcing them to stay awake at periods of time.
I've like seen and read a few things about solitary confinement too, where all you do is sleep, right? And it starts to actually drive you completely crazy because you start losing the ability to track time.
If there's no window, especially.
Right. And you don't know how many days it's been, you don't know how long it's been in there. You sleep, you think maybe you slept for a full night, maybe you slept the whole day away, you have no idea, and it starts really turning your brain into fucking pudding.
Yep. Now it's not just this. It wouldn't even be that bad if not for Rip City. Bah, I don't know. That was streamers and confetti coming down. Water torture, baby. Let's do it. They particularly target Sisielski with this because he actually has a fear of water. Which, by the way, didn't they confess to killing him on a boat?
Right.
So they take this guy who they call the ringleader, and they know he's scared of water, and a prison guard later sort of whistleblows this, and he sort of talks to the media years later about what he saw. And they would take Sisielski and dunk his head in a bucket. And they would drag him out and say, we're going to drown you until you confess. And then they dunk his head in the bucket. And that was sort of that. I didn't hear if it worked. He was probably scarred for life would be my imagination. Viderson, I believe, he made 2 attempts on his own life while being held during this time span. He was forced to come out, and I believe specifically for the first one, but maybe for both, he was come out and forced to pose for photographs that would recreate the crime scene. By the way, the crime scene that nobody even proves happened.
There is no crime scene.
Recreate it for us. Here, stand behind one of the prison guards, and there's a picture of this on the BBC. You should pull it up. Stand behind one of the prison guards and show us how you choked out, Geirfinnur. Demonstrate it for us. And force him to demonstrate the ways to recreate the scene, which, by the way, all of this has been analyzed by memory experts. And pretty much these guys, whether they intended to or not, these interrogators, they were creating the perfect, MK Ultra shit
for
implanted memories.
They said that there's an expert that made his career off of this case, that said that by doing this kind of thing, by giving a tactile feel to the memories that you're trying to implant and suggest to somebody, that it makes it more real and more believable for them. So by actually having a physical sensation of choking somebody out to go along with the implanted memory that you did this, makes it more real for the person that's in solitary that you're trying to break down and implant these memories into. It's fucking crazy. You worked solitary for state prison for 4 months in med security. Those people range from comos, afraid to be I don't know what that means. In general pop or crazy. Oh, chomos. Gotcha. Chimos. Afraid to be in general pop or crazies. Yeah. Fucking nuts.
I also have written here that I didn't see who was given what, but drugs were given to them at periods of time. I wrote down the names here. Mogadon, which I guess is for sleep.
It's a benzo. It's like in the same family as like Valium and all
which
that.
Is almost merciful.
Right.
Hook me on that if you're going to keep me in solitary. Diazepam, which I believe is for anxiety and alcohol withdrawal.
Yeah, it's another benzo. It's in the same class.
And chlorpromazine, which is, I guess, treats mental illness, behavioral disorders, nausea, and potential anxiety, as well as a few other things.
Yeah, it's
that I didn't think were relevant.
It's like an antipsychotic similar to like Seroquel. If you've ever been to, never mind. If you've ever been prescribed Seroquel, you know what it's like.
These police are criminals. I swear, it's disgusting.
Yeah. Those are some heavy fucking drugs to be giving people too, because like benzos given in large doses kind of wipe your memory anyway, and then you mix in that Seroquel in there, and you can really get a pretty loose grip on reality pretty fast. Yeah, it's fucking nuts. Some nuts drugs. Yeah, they're trying to fuck these guys up for sure.
So that's so. Before we start, like, going into, a couple more things that have sort of come out, a couple more modern thoughts on the case, let's just say, like, what happened to these 6?
And you did mention the fact that she, after being brought in for a witness, admitted to shooting.
Yeah, apparently that's when, she admitted to shooting Geirfinnur, and that's why they turned the witness in solitary into a full-time detainment.
Right.
And then even though the gun never made an appearance, that I don't think was ever, that never happened. And all of these guys are petty criminals. A couple of them are, dicks.
Right.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. For 2 murders you can't even prove happened.
She gets an added charge that everybody else gets. She gets an added charge for perjury over the whole thing, too.
You were lying to us. So at the bottom of the BBC, well, first off, there's a video that you might need to mute, but there is like a what happened to them. And we can go through,
there's a couple of videos.
Like very bottom though. Something of a church just started autoplaying. Yeah, there it is.
This right here.
Yep. So that picture of a church just started autoplaying for me. I don't know if it is for you.
Yep, got it. Muted.
Yep. But so what we have here is Savar Sisielski. If you would show his picture. Just scroll down a little bit.
Oh, he's down. I got one up too. There we go. Savar.
Yep. So Savar, he spent years trying to overturn his conviction. He did eventually get free despite getting a life sentence. And he would move, funnily enough, to Copenhagen, Denmark once again, and ended up on the streets, where he died as a 56-year-old man in 2011. Erla Bolladottir remained in Iceland with her own daughter, who must have been a toddler by the time she got to see her again.
Yeah.
She trained as a language teacher, it says, and now teaches Icelandic to newly arrived migrants. Very nice. She got the lightest sentence, I think, of 3 years.
Right.
Christian Vidersen, he did marry and have 2 children, and he had a string of manual jobs. He now lives alone in Reykjavik and rarely talks about the case. I don't blame him. We have Tryggvi Leifsson, who became a decorator. He had 3 children, one of whom died in 2002. After developing cancer, Tryggvi himself died in 2009 at the age of 58. Albert Skaftason settled down and has a stable family life. He works with disadvantaged children, and he has never talked publicly about the case since its release. And finally, Gudjon Skarphedinsson moved to Denmark, where he married and started a family. He trained as a Lutheran minister and returned to Iceland. He recently retired. Now, in 2018, as of 2018, fortunately, there was enough of an uproar that all of the suspects were acquitted, aside from Bola daughter, who was still fighting the perjury charges.
Yeah, I was gonna say that. I was hoping you'd put that in there. She's getting charged for perjury still to this day for lies that she's saying that were implanted into her by the fucking police. Like,
I will say it's time served, so they're not looking to put her back in prison. They're just saying we were right about the perjury, which I guess she did lie under torture.
It's their fault.
I know. The police don't give a shit. My fault isn't in the police's fucking vocabulary.
Bro.
But unfortunately, by the time they were acquitted, you know, and sort of, it's popular now. It's the popular theory. The 6 of these people had nothing to do with these 2 disappearances, who possibly aren't even murders.
Right. These 2 dudes might, like, it's like I said, the name is the 4th most common last name in Iceland. It's there's possible there's no connection. The only connection is that I can see on paper is their last name, and they both went missing in the same year, 10 months apart. But, like, they could have just fucking fell off in the snow or fell into a volcano or fucking run
especially
off.
the first guy was drunk as fuck. The second guy is a little strange because he was clearly meeting someone and we've never found out who.
Right.
So, unfortunately, even though these people have been cleared in the court of public opinion, and quite literally in you know, cleared in court, they still lost their lives, essentially. And 2 of them never lived to see the day that they were declared innocent, which is pretty shit. That's pretty shit. And to even make it worse, I read that some of these people still say they're unsure today whether they had something to do with it. They literally come out and say, I don't know if I'm a murderer or not. They're no longer proclaiming their innocence. They're saying, I have no idea. I don't remember what was real back then. I don't remember if I did do it. I don't remember if I didn't. And isn't that hell? Living with the knowledge that you might be a murderer and not being able to know whether that's true. That's pretty fucked up, man.
It's crazy, man. So do you ever watch interrogation videos and stuff on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
I figured
A
like
lot, yeah.
Some of the way that they, now I get that like a lot of it's for good. You're putting people behind bars that like clearly have done something wrong. But a lot of the interrogation tactics that even we still use to this day, the way that they break people down and get them to do stuff, and then even the more like corrupt side of it, it's fucked up, dude.
It's psychological.
It's not that hard to break down somebody's brain, especially after they've gone through something traumatic. Like your spouse is found, you find your spouse dead on the floor, like cut into a million fucking pieces, and then the police instantly think you're the one that did it, and say you're innocent, and then they start mentally breaking you down on top of that with all that stress on there. Like you're gonna confess to shit that you didn't fucking do. Like it's so fucked. Makes me so mad.
I know. So the first one, you know, unfortunately, he, you know, I, you know, it's possible he wandered off. There's no more theories on him. He's gone, dude. The second one, however, Geirfinnur, I did find new witness testimony that came out very recently. A person claimed that on that night that Geirfinnur went missing, this guy was down at the harbor, down at the cafe, and he saw 2 men carrying a weakened man onto a boat, and the weakened man looked to the witness and said, "Remember me." And they brought him onto the boat, and the boat sailed away, and the boat returned with the 2 men, but not the weakened man. And this witness says that I'm coming forth with this information because I was in eastern Iceland, and I saw one of the guys who was on the boat. I recognized him all these years later. He was the electrical worker up there. So I think that you should check this out. And this is where my notes literally become the words blah, blah, blah. Go fuck yourself. This person is so fucking full of it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it 40 years later. 40 years fucking later. You say, oh, yeah, you know, I do happen to remember a guy being dragged onto a boat and saying, "Remember me," and then not returning on the boat. You don't call someone, you don't tell people. Come the fuck on, man. And now you see the guy, again, the criminal on the boat 30 years later. Maybe you got a photograph of him in the fucking mail aged up because he fucking looks up on a telephone pole and says, "That's the guy on the boat." Fuck you.
Also, how the dude must be pretty old still climbing telephone poles at this point, like, if that's the case. Like, assuming he was like 30 when he did this, 40 years later he'd be 70 years old climbing telephone poles. And who the fuck would say remember me?
Not help, I'm being kidnapped, somebody help me.
Just remember me. It's frustrating.
What bullshit. Fuck you, dude. I don't know who you are, man. Fuck you. Stop trying to fuck with shit. Nothing pisses me off more than when I'm looking into a fucking case. People are trying to get justice and figure out what happened, and some vain prick decides to make the news story about them. They say 2 men have gone missing? This is my time to shine. Up yours.
Clout goblins, man.
Up yours. Oh, so then that's all I have. I think Gerfison, I mean, we could do a poll on what happened to each of them.
Yeah, let's do it.
But, there are apparently some people who still think that the police got the right 6 people and just went about a bad interrogation.
That is one theory.
I don't know, man, but maybe. And then there's one more thing that I heard, and I didn't know where else to squeeze this in, because it wasn't like a confirmed thing, but it might explain a little bit about where the Reykjavik police are in their heads. Apparently, again, there are very few murders in Iceland. Very few. They have many more natural disappearances than murders. Apparently in, I think it was 1968, regardless, it was a few years before this, there was a murder of a taxi driver who was found shot. And the police were under a lot of pressure to figure out who did it, and they never caught the guy. And apparently a lot of people in the department did have a chip on their shoulder about that. And maybe they thought, hey, if we solve these 2 disappearances, that'll redeem us.
Yeah.
I think that's probably... You know what I mean? I think that's probably a pretty good theory if it's true, you know?
Well, like you said before, they didn't have a squad of people that were even equipped to deal with murders at the time in Iceland. Nope. I don't know if they do now. I don't know what the population of Iceland is now, but it's probably much higher. But they didn't even have a squad of people at the time to deal with this. And, like, the people that do deal with investigating murders are specifically trained for it, not just some cop that, like, goes out looking for somebody who might have kicked over some kid's snowman. You know what I mean? Like, so 357,000. So it's gone up by a little bit, but that's still pretty small. Like, what's the population of fucking, like, Michigan? Like I said, it's half the size of Michigan. So
yeah, I mean, not just Michigan. Look at cities. You know, London has what, 8 million, 11 million, 16 million, some crazy fucking number.
So half of the population of Michigan would be like 5 million people.
Sheesh.
And it's the same size.
So I will start a poll. And if you guys would like to look more into this, there were a couple articles that were in Icelandic, I know.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't manage to get through all of those. 2 were newspapers. I'm not sure if there was an English translation available, but there's more on this. Maybe, but at the same time, how much more could there be on this? Because there's no leads. The only thing that we had here was essentially one guy goes missing and a bed sheet is missing. And I guess this chick who we're going to say did it, whose bed sheet is missing, she is dating a criminal, even though he's a petty criminal. And she met this victim twice at a party once and all of this. And then the second guy, you know, yeah, he went missing and he left his cars in the ignition and he was supposedly meeting with someone and nobody knows what happened. That's all we have. So I don't know if there's anything more to go off of, but you know. So what happened to Gudmundur is what I'll do first, who is the 18-year-old, the first one. And I will say, let's say, I think that it is valid to say the police got the right people as an option. Like I said, a few people, even though I personally don't I don't agree with it, that is a theory that's out there. So where's his name, Sisielski? Let me just copy paste. Conspiracy, okay? Sisielski conspiracy. The second is that he wandered off naturally, I'll put. The next would be someone else did it. Maybe he was murdered, but someone else did it and they never looked. Yeah, so what else can you think of for the first guy, Gudmundur? I have Sisielski really did have a conspiracy to kill this guy. The guy wandered off naturally, or someone else did it entirely. It was a murder, but not these guys. Anything
I
else?
think that's about it. I mean, there is a connection to, they are connected, but like Charlie said, you might have already mentioned this comment, it's Iceland. They literally have an app where you can check you're not related to the person you're dating. So
Yes, I was totally going to fucking bring that up. I love that.
So, like, it's possible that there was a connection between those two guys. He did, at one point, hang out with, in some capacity, with his girlfriend and mother of his kid. Maybe he was a jealous guy. Maybe he really did get his friends and go kill them. Maybe these guys have been lying the whole time. Maybe they really are murderers. It's possible.
In fact, it's possible that their real memories of the real crime were eroded away and replaced with fake memories of the real crime.
That's also really true. Like, they might have actually, like, been hiding something and then got broke down so far that they started believing the cops' narrative on the whole thing.
That's kind of interesting. That's kind of an interesting, like, hook for a story of some sort, is that you really did a crime and you're holding out, but they torture you and get you to believe that you're innocent. And then, now that you think you're innocent, they, trick you to believe you're guilty
Break
of
you
some,
down, yeah, again.
different sort of set of circumstances. It sounds like two movies that I won't spoil.
I don't know the two movies.
That's fair. I'll DM them to you.
Elves fell
On
into
Discord.
a volcano. Maybe, Moby.
I think Wandered Off Naturally counts elves.
It'll all be swept under carpets. Nick Applesauce. Maybe. Maybe, Danny.
What do you think of that?
Maybe the chickens got you.
Possible.
Did you DM me?
Yep, on Discord. I can send it on Skype too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. I can see that.
That's sort
I
of
have
like a
seen
mix of
both
those.
Dan said, I mean, even if they were murderers, it is still entirely unethical
yeah.
to torture them for a year straight. 100%. I agree
100%.
I agree with you. I mean, without getting into, like, crazy, I mean, eye for an eye and all that type of shit, but, like, there's a difference between that and literal fucking torture.
Right. Well, that's why even the American justice system, it just says years of confinement. We're not going to break your arms. People inside might.
Right.
But we're not going to break your arms. We're not going to, do anything to you outside of lock you in a box for 8 years or 15 years or your entire life.
Yeah.
So there is some sort of process that's supposed to be conducted. And you know what it sort of is? It's like, it's Blackstone's ratio versus like Bismarck's ratio. It's where Blackstone and then Ben Franklin built upon Blackstone's ratio. I think it was Blackstone at least. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows. But it was the concept that I would rather have 10 guilty men, and then Ben Franklin said 100 guilty men go free, than see one innocent man wrongly punished.
Right.
And then, you have the Bismarck approach of where he flips that and says, I would rather see 100 innocent men punished than one guilty man go free. And, there's two philosophies, and Iceland clearly was into that philosophy of we need justice, even though murders don't really happen around here.
It's nuts, man. You get one life, and to have it destroyed for something that you didn't even do is so fucked up, man.
So Wandered Off Naturally wins with 4 votes. I didn't vote. I would toss mine there, too. Sisielski, Conspiracy, does get 1. So maybe, it was the right suspects, but just the wrong methods. It was the right arrest, but the wrong methods.
Or what if Erla actually committed both murders and pinned it both on these guys?
Because Sisielski was supposed to be in Denmark at the time, she said.
Right. What if she did these completely by herself and pinned it all on these other dudes? And was like
she was like this criminal mastermind to get all of these guys put away. But she was not enough of a mastermind. She was kind of stupid enough that she fucking implicated herself too. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Crazier shit has happened, I'm sure. So then I'll throw up a quick poll if everybody dismisses the poll at the top of the screen so I can put up the new one. And this is Geirfinnur. What happened to... But I would agree that I think that the first guy went missing naturally. I think he wandered off, something bad happened to him, and he just sort of disappeared.
Right. There's been cases where they found, like, where people have been drunk and they've left bars and then they've never been seen again, or they wash up in the Hudson River, like, years later, and...
Yep. And before I go out with this one, I would like to put forth a couple more things. Again, Geirfinnur allegedly dealt in alcohol smuggling. Some people theorize that maybe Geirfinnur was meeting with Sisielski as an accomplice, and then maybe the deal went bad and something bad happened and they turned to murder. And there was talk in the underground of Sisielski didn't like that guy or something like that. But at the same time, I'm sure there was. I'm sure there was that for every guy, because these guys are kind of like delinquents. So I don't know. So with Gerfiner, I'll say Sisielski conspiracy. The electrician did it. He burned the house down, too.
Oh, man. So I'm trying to see what the population was of Reykjavik here.
Yeah.
This site, it's written weirdly, but it might have only been 100,000 in 1975, which makes up almost half of the whole country's population. But it's still a small fucking city. Like,
let's admit that there also is a possibility, I guess, that Gerfiner just jumped into the harbor and killed himself.
Could have.
I guess. So what I have here is a Sisielski conspiracy, disappeared naturally, offed himself, the electrician did it, or someone else did it. You know, so there you go. There's another poll at the top of chat. Everybody give it a vote. This is the one that interests me, because at least we know that this guy, the other guy, I'm content saying he disappeared, wandered off. This guy, it's already a little stranger.
Yeah, this guy wasn't drunk. He was home. He went back to a cafe that he was already at after having some drinks, left his car there with the keys in the ignition. So, like, either he was planning on dying and didn't give a shit, or didn't want his wife to have to pay to get the locks on the car changed when she got it back afterwards or whatever, or something fucked up happened to him. 3 years for a murder ain't bad. That's true. Yeah, it could have been. She could have been a criminal mastermind, and then that female hysteria kicked in and fucked it all up.
That's right. She started launching into like a Seinfeld style skit in the. You know, what's the deal with water? What's it called? Waterboarding.
Yeah. What's the deal with waterboarding? My Seinfeld impression's awful. I do terrible impressions.
I can't do Seinfeld at all.
I can do a decent Colonel Sanders if I'm drunk enough, but that's about it.
Darn hysteria, I'm telling you.
It does. I have no clue what happened to this guy, but I don't think he offed himself. I don't think he disappeared. I think that somebody fucking did him in.
I agree. I think someone killed him, but we'll never know who. It does suck that he dropped his friend off at the cafe. Was his friend ever asked?
Yeah.
What happened at the cafe? Because the guy is watching his friend, or he's watching with his friend TV. Then they go to the cafe, and then he returns alone. And then, so clearly, to me, they were in on it. Or maybe he was just asking, like maybe he dropped his friend off midway through. Mm-hmm. Regardless, I'd like to hear where his friend stopped seeing things. Just like I'd like to see where the girl who was asleep on the couch stopped seeing things.
That's the thing with like looking into these cases from so long ago, is that there isn't complete information available to everybody. It's like it's compiled the best it can be and cataloged on the internet, and then we are left to pick through it afterwards, you know? And so sometimes there's loose ends that just can't be tied up. Like the people are dead. We don't know who they were. Their names were never recorded. The people who did know are dead or gone. There's no evidence. It's not like today when there's like video footage and video evidence of everything. I'm kind of curious to think about how like unsolved crimes that happen like in our time now would be looked back on, you know, 30 or 40 years from now. Like, because there's such a you leave such a trail and such a footprint everywhere you go, be it with your cell phone, pinging towers and everything. Like it's
even more literally with touch DNA.
Right. It seems like it'd be so much harder for stuff like this to happen in this day and age, but it's still.
I guess that's why you see violent crime is going down so much.
Right.
Like violent crime rates are dropping.
Yeah.
Might not seem it if you watch the news. We got 4 votes for someone else did it, including my own. Sisielski conspiracy got 1. Offed himself 1 too. But yeah.
Scared me with that freaking Pornhub fucking intro.
Ultimately, I agree. I think someone else killed this guy. And I don't know who, and we'll probably never know, but isn't that chilling? Think about this, right? You killed someone. And you sit back and you watch as 6 people get arrested for it. And 6 of them are incriminated and 6 of them are put away by Icelandic officials for a murder that you committed. The shit-eating grin that motherfucker must have on his face, man. Probably looks like mine. You know? But honestly, that's fucking spooky to think that guy who did that
I mean, there's no way you wouldn't know, right? Like, so
Right.
people who commit crimes like this, they always get caught searching up their own stuff on the internet, like to see what's going on with the case. Like when they get caught, like later on, they always get busted. Their internet search history always shows that, like, yeah, they were following it, they were searching it. So whoever did this was definitely keeping up on it if there was a murder.
Unless it was like a smuggling thing and you were dealing with professional criminals who might not really
And they
take
just don't
pride in
care,
their kills.
right? They don't give a shit. They got it done. They're out. They're finished. I mean, so the alcohol like smuggling thing that he was involved in was Iceland a dry country at that time? Like, why are we smuggling alcohol?
No, of course not, because the kid was
He was drunk,
getting wasted.
So why are we
They were
smuggling
doing
alcohol?
LSD. They were partying it up.
Fucking
Although maybe
hippies.
the alcohol was supplied by this guy, but
Could be.
no, I don't know. Maybe like better rates or something.
Maybe it was what? Oh, better rates.
Like better rates.
Yeah, that could
you know,
make
you
sense.
get like expensive alcohol knockoffs or whatever. You know, you get it in without paying import tax or whatever. I don't know. I'm not a business student. I don't know how that works, but
Yeah. Well, that's like people who steal like cigarette trucks and sell it to the the
Right.
gas stations and everything afterwards. So.
right, exactly. Or a block and tackle.
Yeah.
Smuggling one of those into the country.
I legitimately thought that was going to be fishing gear. I didn't think it was going to be pulleys. Here, block
It's
and
a
tackle.
simple machine.
Yeah.
And I don't know what they ran people in 1940, but I do know in one of the YouTube videos I was watching, someone looked it up, and he was like, you can get one of these for like $20.
Yeah.
Why would you steal this?
Why
Why
would
would you
you-
cut the phone line?
Yeah, I was going to say, why would you go through all the effort of cutting the phone line on this whole thing? So those of y'all that are still here with us and that are still hanging out and talking and listening, or if you're watching this on the video later on, if you have any
Whoa.
suggestions for
Good call,
other
Moby.
stuff, please either leave a comment, leave a message in chat, message us in Discord. We
Yep.
are all over that stuff. We got a lot more planned too. So
We do upload these onto YouTube. Pete's trying to get 100 subscribers on the YouTube
That's
channel
right.
right now.
that's right. Trying to get that YouTube going, baby. I'm gonna pump Nick's socials one more time. Make sure you give Nick a follow. If you don't already, follow Nick on his channel
Thank
on
you.
Twitch, on YouTube, TikTok. You're doing it wrong. I also have my socials here as well. I don't want to overload you with links, but I'm gonna anyway. Do the things. You got anything else you want to add to this, Nick?
No, just, thank you very much, everyone, for listening in. We hope you enjoyed this episode. I think I did an all right job, being that I'm... I feel like I'm in
definitely.
a boiler right now. I'm in solitary. But, I'm being water tortured.
I
But
would.
no, I really hope that all of you guys enjoyed both these, stories. They were very strange. Didn't have like a huge connection, but I do think that there are definitely similar themes. And I also think that this Reykjavik Confessions case is very interesting because it was the first one I would say we focused on where murder like really was the focal point, but we didn't have any suspects aside from the 6 people who were tortured to confess.
Right. This was also, I think, the first one that somebody had suggested for us to do too. So.
Yep, Blue, who popped in before.
Yep.
And thank you, Biscuit. I appreciate that. Thank you, Charlie. I'm glad you could make it out. And that goes for all of you. Thank you for spending some time with us, listening to us talk. Thank you for the biddies, the subs before. And shoot us a DM. Shoot us a message on Twitter. If you're seeing this on YouTube, same thing goes. Give us a follow. Catch up, man. Be here next time. Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern.
That's right. I'm gonna do a raid here. Hopefully it works out.
Thank you, Ari.
This is somebody who chills in the chat a lot. She's just starting. Let me just check her channel real quick before I do it.
Yeah, fair. Hey, thank you, Team Danny. I appreciate that.
Oh, you should definitely be following. No, it doesn't look like it's gonna work. We're gonna, unless you have somebody you want to suggest, we'll skip the raid. I don't really have anybody at the moment.
Oh, gee. Let's see.
Give somebody
Who's online?
love would be fun.
Yeah.
Throw one down. Go versus Fish was. I did consider it briefly, Grace. I did briefly consider Go versus Fish for the meme.
Goat versus Fish is live. That's true.
Let's see what he's doing.
Otherwise, we have don't know. I don't want to necessarily draw the crowd anywhere. We have a couple people. We have Solutized. We have Chesterfield.
Let's go. Let's just throw it down over to Chesterfield. Has less people. Let's go over to Chesterfield and do that. All right, guys, give a little love. Say what up. You know, just be your lovely, amazing selves and all of that. All right, guys, I will be back Monday. Nick, when are you streaming again? You got an idea?
That's a good question. I have no idea.
Great.
I always announce it on Twitter. So,
hey, Ronnie, goodbye, hi, all that. Yeah, that's right. So follow Nick on fucking Twitter, dude, and then you get to find out when he's doing his thing.
That's right. And yeah, if you guys go outside in Iceland, especially, be careful of ferries. I'd add that in there too.
Dude, this was so much fun. I thank you all for hanging and listening. These streams have been a really good time. They're really fun to dive into and look into, and always a pleasure to work with Nick on them. So, yeah, I got nothing else.
Thank you. Back at you. Thank you for having me on.
All right, dude. All right, I love y'all. See you next time. Good night. Say what up to Chesterfield.